shifting in the night, stalking you. Does my face seem familiar? Does my body tell you more? Will I change you or will it end you? And the power that I have could give you eternal life. Death doesn't know me. I've become eternal. When the hunger wakes me, I live to feed. With the darkness surrounds me, where the mist, she follows me. I walk alone in the night, watching you, following you, leading on you through the night. When the hunger wakes me, I live to feed. With the darkness surrounds me. All your life I was still. I become the living dead. I own the darkness and know what beats inside of me. I become eternal. When the hunger wakes me, I live to feed. With the darkness surrounds me. Overflowing
dreaded flag, a vengeful sea. Be careful what you say. There's always someone listening. The Dutchman tossed on the sea. I swore and the devil heard me. Now we're doomed to sail the 7 seas for eternity. So yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. The line forever we must tow. We sail through them, cursed and condemned. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. A sinister grin across his face said, you'll be doomed to this place. The devil heard my oath, shame of my boast. Oh, a ghostly ship from the depths, freedom from fear is the only gift of death. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. The line forever we must tow.
Here we go. So here we are, PRT, Paranormal Roundtable, right? Okay. We got 168. Well, it says 162 down there, but it's really 168. But we'll get started. We don't have to. We're good. So I guess first things first. I think we had something like 680 something people in the chat, in the chat, on the live chat for the show.
For the premiere?
Yeah, it was a premiere. Now that wasn't a live. A lot of people call it a live. That's not a live. This is a live. This is a live stream right here. And so that's, yeah, there was almost 700 people. I don't know if they're going to follow us over here. I don't. I guess it's 165 right now, but we'll see. We'll see. If they want to ask questions, then they'll show up. Thank you for that donation. We appreciate that. I got somebody that messaged me today, and I don't even know if I have permission to say his name. Some people like their name being said, and some people don't. So I just err on the side of caution and don't say names. It's just the best policy. Anyway, he's supposedly sending me some camera equipment. I don't know yet. I've got to wait till I get it. And something terrible happened today with the mail. Something that we were expecting to arrive for $285. The people that delivered it, and they're again, they shouldn't even say who they are, but it was not UPS, put it that way. The other one. They just threw it right there on my porch, and it was just cut open, and the stuff was taken out of it. So I've had a pretty day. I've had a day. Let's put it that way. It's been a day. I couldn't believe it. And then I had to get on the phone with these people and not lose my cool and be like, look, man, and how does the driver not know? I mean, he took a picture of the thing cut open and the contents removed. So he threw a flat piece of cardboard that was cut open onto my, yeah.
Yeah, makes him look suspicious.
Yeah, it looks real suspicious.
Thank you for that super chat.
Thank you for the super chat. Not to sit here, but it was
I have
just
no idea how to say your name.
It is, yeah, Govan Zant, G Van Zant 661. Thank you for that donation. Appreciate it. Liberty, thank you for these donations. We appreciate it, folks. We can use it. We need to get things done, get things going, whatever, so that we can do what we got to do. I was at the mall today, and I was talking to my friend because one of my rings, this one, had to get filled in because it was hurting my finger because it was not, solid. And so I just, I went and so his assistant that works there is a young guy from India. He watches my show. And he told me, he says, I've watched every one of your shows. I said, that's probably not true. And he goes, no, I did. He goes, I binge watched all of them. When you told me about it 2 months ago, he's like, I've been watching them every day. And I said, wow, that's incredible. So that was pretty cool. It was uplifting, and he said he really enjoyed it, and he was looking forward to tonight. And I hope he enjoyed it. But, yeah, he was telling me that, anyway, somebody robbed him at gunpoint. So I guess it could be worse. Yeah. So that's, somebody actually went to the mall and basically showed him a gun and took some jewelry and just left. So that was disheartening. The way people are nowadays is unbelievable. It's like the Wild West out here. Ever since the stuff that happened, everybody getting getting sick and all that, it's been crazy. It's been nuts. It's just insane. Thank you, Miguel Guerrero. Everybody that's donated, we really appreciate it, because we have to get this done. And like I said, something came in today and it was gone. And our neighborhood is not, ain't nobody going around stealing packages. Our house is tucked back in.
Yeah.
Like, if they would have come up to because I heard the guy show up. I was on the phone today. I was on the phone with Boomer from BMR. And I was apologizing to him that I have to be on tonight, and I messed up his time slot, and I did not know. And we racked our brains last night trying to figure out what time everybody did what. And we know Bettina's going on tomorrow night with Ellie Marzulli. I'm excited for that, and excited for her. And then after that's Barton. So Bettina will be on 6 p.m. Central. Barton goes on 8 p.m. Central. So check them out. And then I'll be on Blondes and Booze at 8 o'clock, even though some people chose to go over there and attack the comment section. They don't like it. Oh, well, too bad. You and your little clan doesn't matter. I'm still gonna be here. Sorry you don't like it. But the thing is, I talked to BMR. He's a very nice guy, and he's very reasonable. And he said, dude, I understand. I did not know. I thought he was on Thursdays and then Saturdays, but apparently he just jumps on Saturday if there's nothing going on, and Thursday is just during the day time slot. Mm-hmm. But he does Tuesday after us.
Oh, crap.
And I've seen him on Tuesday, but I don't know what I was thinking when we talked about it, because we said, well, we can't do it on Wednesday, and then Thursday I'm on Blondes and Booze, and we have a guest on Friday. Saturday we have the Alien Agenda Roundtable, and then on Sunday, we retell stories. I don't have a time for this Q&A, so I said, we'll just do it after the show, and if people want to come over from the podcast, they can. We have a lot of people who just listen to the podcast. They don't do the live stream. Somebody like Barton is the opposite. Barton does not listen to any of the podcast episodes. So he would not have listened to this one, right? He only watches the live stream. And right now he's out at the LBL, so he's not going to be watching. But yeah, that's fine. And I have people like, one of my listeners she owns a boxing school. And she only listens to the podcast. She doesn't do the live stream at all. She won't do YouTube. She doesn't watch anything on YouTube. So it has to be on Spotify or whatever. And that's fine. But so that's kind of how that works. You have people who will totally show up for the live stream, and then they won't listen to the podcast episodes. They're also on YouTube. They just won't listen to them. And then there's others that they just won't do the live stream. So, trying and me and BMR were talking about that today, and he was talking about how it's two different things. It really is. The podcast is not the YouTube. It is two different platforms completely. And there are people who are YouTube people and people who are just totally into the podcast, and they're just not gonna do it. But either way, I know a lot of people that do the live stream, they won't listen to the hour long. And that's fine, whatever you want to do. But we're trying to bring everybody together. Regardless of how it is or what, we're trying to bring everybody together in every sense of that word, togetherness. We know in our hearts that we are stronger together. And it's foolish to think that we're not. And there are people who would lead you to believe that, everybody should just do their own thing and do whatever you want, do what you will, or whatever, which is like, it's not a good thing. So we'll start here. We got a few people already asking questions. Can the vamps see their reflection? Yes. I've heard our reflection in the mirror is our soul. That's why vamps can't see theirs, and that's not true. I mean, these guys, that's a question I did ask. That's an easy one.
I've heard it said that where that comes from is that mirrors used to be made with like silver backing, and so if it was pure silver, they couldn't see the reflection in that. Is that true?
Yeah, that's not necessarily true. Mirrors were never made with silver backing. Who told you that? Because that would be super expensive. That would be
There was
like
someone in the comments of our live stream at some point. It just kind of stuck with me.
there might have been maybe a film back there or something. Yeah.
like just like a
Okay,
film.
because I was going to say I've never read that ever. I don't know, and I didn't ask Joel about that, so that's something I can't answer. The mercury, yes, the quicksilver. Now I asked him. I said, "Is that actual mercury that you walk through?" He says, "No, it's not. That is not quick. It just looks like quicksilver. It's from another dimension, and it's like a veil that they use. It's weird. It's a really weird thing." The comments are moving here. We only got 264 people in the chat, but the comments are moving quickly. I missed some up top here. Debbie Cothra. Yes, and Debbie, like I said, we got the lights on now, and we have just been so freaking busy, and no excuses now. We just got to get the mail ops done. I apologize. But that's another thing. Somebody boosted some of our books. So... I don't know if they took shirts or not. I guess if we see somebody walking around with a shirt, they could be a fan, or it could be somebody that stole some when they came in here to work. So, we've been getting robbed lately. Please pray, because I'd like it to stop. But we've been under spiritual attack for a while. Not going to get into it.
I got a question here. Connie48 says, "Are vampires born, chose, or both?"
I would say, okay, now this isn't something that I asked Joel, but I think that they are both because of, I think he pretty much answered the question when he talked about how some of these babies are born and they're perfectly possessed. Those babies, though, what he was talking about, and he never saw another generation come up, he'd only met a few of them and they weren't very old. So I guess it's something that doesn't work very, very often. But they are perfectly possessed, and they have abilities that humans don't. They're like superhuman, but they're not human at all. They are birthed into this reality just to do evil. I made a joke. I called them agents of the Kali Yuga, and he says that's exactly what they are, agents of the Kali Yuga. He said he laughed, and he said that's a good term for them. He's very well versed in all the different religions of the world, pretty much. Not so much Gerald, and it kind of is fitting too, because Gerald didn't adhere to like religion much at all before this, but his buddy, who was the brains of the operation behind when they were drug dealing, very much so. Like Joel, I get, and Gerald said that Joel's way smarter than me. He said, and not just this, but spiritually smarter. He learned more. And he said that he was always the brains, and Joel did become a vampire, and he actually asked to be a werewolf like his buddy, and they told him, no, we need more of you, and they have a lot more vampires than there are werewolves. There's I think he said 5 to 1. Some places are 10 to 1 because you can blend in better, and it's a more stable thing. Like if you vamp out, as they call it, like you just pop out and and do what you do, and they do have fangs. That is something that I did not say in the show. Yes, he don't walk around with them. They come down at will, and your face kind of becomes more gaunt and narrowed, as he says, and you get sort of a muzzle, and there's like holes in them, and you can suck through them, and it's a real thing. That's what he said. Now I have had people tell me this before. He wasn't the first person that said, yes, I do have, Omar, I do. I will talk about that in a minute. So that's a real thing, and he used them, and some people who they were willing to allow them to drink their blood. And it wasn't this is cool, man, I'm drinking blood type thing. No. It was because it gives you energy, it gives you power, it gives you life. It was your life force. If you went more than 3 days, supposedly, without it, you would become, ill. And not in the way that you're like, oh, okay. Like Hollywood makes it sound like they're walking through the desert and they're dying, you know. He said, no, you just feel crappy. I mean, you just feel really crappy, and if you don't exsanguinate something, even an animal, whatever, he said that you will feel like crap, and eventually you will pass out. And when you go unconscious, you're running the risk of that thing unattaching. And if it unattaches and it shows up at the temple without you, he said, and they come to get you. I mean, it's once or twice maybe, you know, but he's like, if you're a repeat offender, you're pretty much done. That I don't know. Trance, what does it say? Area trance. Is it common for them to take mythological names? I knew of an elder who did so. Not that he told me. They all had different names for each other, which was sort of like their names that they gave. And so what happened was the elders, like you just said, they would give you a name. That's pretty much like what he told me, was like, you know, you were given a name. And his was a Latin demonic name, and they all are. So I'm not going to sit up here and talk about people's infernal names, because that's just not something I'm going to do. Sort of. I mean, Brett says, did the werewolves act as soldiers for the vamps, like in those movies, or henchmen? Sort of, but then there were grunt vampires too. It just depended on your station. He said there were some very high up, powerful werewolves. And I want to say this too, and I'd be dishonest if I didn't tell you this. Yes, Penny Van, they did not want to be heard. So that's, you know, and that was fine. You know, we heard them. That's it. You don't need to. But here's the thing. I had to make sure that they were comfortable with even talking about it. And there was a lot of negotiating. Let's put it that way. Certain things that they didn't want to talk about, and I kind of talked them into it. You know, I needed to get the information, right? But one of the things that I was interested in about their names and their hierarchies and all that, it didn't really matter. And they didn't actually, you know, like how we think of it as like a werewolf or whatever. Mm-hmm. They could almost all do the same thing. It was just a name that was given. Like one of them would say, well, I'm a werewolf, you know, because I can change into that. But he goes, werewolf and vampire aren't really terms that we used. He goes, that's what you use. People. Like people would call you a vampire by the terminology. People would call you a werewolf. He goes, we were just shapeshifters. He goes, and I could shapeshift into a wolf or a bat. He's like, but I didn't very often. He goes, you know, and it was more often than not, it was sort of like what they call a familiar, and this is the word he used. It was what he called a biological familiar, but it really was kind of like a extension of yourself. It was almost like a little robot. So he could manipulate a bat, like something that could take the form of a bat, and he could sit in a trance-like state, like meditate, literally cross-legged, and they do some kind of thing with their fingers. He said we'd interlock our fingers, and then we'd bend our thumbs back. So I don't know exactly how that works, because he was just telling me about it. He didn't show me, so I'm having to visualize this. And he said that, you know, you basically just sit there, and you put your hands out in front of you, and he goes, eventually you'll feel this surge of energy, and the other will project like an avatar. And that avatar will become like a bat, something small, particularly like a possum or a rodent, some kind of rodent. Mm-hmm. And he said that, then get this, these little small beings, whatever they chose, could shift into other beings. So people lately have been talking about seeing, Joe Breezy last night was on Matt Imsh's show. You should check it out, because Joe is talking about him and his wife seeing some kind of creature change from one little small being into another, which I thought was extremely interesting. I was like, that's what he's talking about. So Joe, but not every time, you know, and he admitted this too, not every time you see something weird or some sort of like weird phenomena, it was us. He goes, because there's a lot of weird stuff out there. And he goes, and I did run into some other vampires, people who practiced vampirism that were very similar to us, but I don't know who they were. He's like, we didn't all know each other. You know what I mean? And it's not like you go into this other city and you're like, oh, we better talk to the leader of the city. Let's go find the head vampire and talk to him. There was no goofiness like that. You know, it's none of this Buffy vampire slayer type, none of that stuff, you know. It's nothing like you would think. He kept saying that. It was no. And like he said, you didn't really call them. He goes, the only ones that we called vampires, that we really called vampires, were what he called beyond the elders, which were those vampiric, flying, demon-looking things. That, he was very adamant about that they were true vampires. And I asked him this, and he didn't know the answer to this, but I said, how old are they as a race? And he goes, I don't know, but they didn't come from here. He goes, they came from another place. And they literally, this is a weird thing too. He said from what he studied, he went to a temple in Iraq during the war. He wasn't even worried about it. He just went, and people just ignored him, and he went right in. And he said, dude, I went into a Mesopotamian temple because everybody has to take a pilgrimage there. That was in his particular order. So he goes, I went there one time during the chaos, post invasion, but it was still fighting. And he said that he had to pay homage to their deity or whatever. And he said that he saw a lot of these weird looking vampires. He said they're all over the Levant. And he also liked that I used that term because the Levant is one big area that's a bunch of different countries, and they just turned it all into a bunch of different countries, which is just one region. So the Levantian area is just inundated with these holes where these vampires live, and they're holes to the inner earth. And he said that as far as what he knows from what he studied in Iraq, this is very interesting. And I didn't talk about this on the show, but he said that they are the crossbreed of a Nephilim, a Nephilim that's the child of a fallen, And he said that they interbred with the children of Lilith. So that's who they are. They really are from Lilith, who was supposedly Adam's first wife. That's what he was taught. Now, there's a lot of people who can speculate and say whatever, but Lilith, I guess, Adam's first wife, who rejected Adam, and she was Mesopotamian. Supposedly that's where the Garden of Eden is. But he said that she rejected him and turned on him and and what they did was she bred with these, I don't want to call them aliens because that's really not what they are. They're alien in the way that they're not from here. So they were like these interdimensional beings that came, and they bred with her, and they had thousands of offspring. And the first of those offspring were the vampires, these vampiric creatures. And they grow really fast, and they are like adults within weeks or months, and then they go out and they prey on people's life force. And they have two different ways to feed, unlike the other vampires that just have to have blood. They can feed on your spiritual essence and your blood. And they do both. And they really prize the blood of innocence. And so they are sort of a conglomeration of these two different types of beings. So that this hybrid being became its own race. And they were so volatile that they almost within weeks overpopulated and had to be culled by some of the, this is weird too, this is what he learned, but some of the other demons became concerned about them because they were like, these beings are everywhere and they're parasites and they're killing off people and animals, and we need the animals' life force too, and they are destroying them quickly. He likened them in the books he read to locusts if they are overpopulated. Now, that's interesting because you remember there was a woman who gave us a story of being abducted. It was an alien abduction, and I don't remember if we talked about it on the Saturday show or what. And I can't even remember what her name was. But she said that she was abducted and that they took her into like a building. Remember that, Anthony? Like a ship. And she saw like a zoo, like some kind of zoo or something. And she saw this, Nosferatu. That's the only way to describe it, I guess. A Nosferatu. She didn't say that, but that's what I thought. Nosferatu type being that was behind some sort of, glass cube or whatever. And the aliens told her that is a being that carries a disease. It's an ancient being. It's over 100,000 years old, and if it was released, it could destroy humanity. Now, I asked him about that, and I told him that story, and he said that's very intriguing. He goes, if she's being truthful, He's like, that's very intriguing, and that is the big question. But he said that if these beings, supposedly the ones that came over from the other side, if they crossed over into our world, there's a bunch of them that could destroy us. Not just the vampires. He's like, there's a lot of them. And these, that, like I said before, the vampires are like a hybrid. But now they've just kind of become their own race, and they produce asexually, supposedly these, whatever. They basically drop the black goo, this is what he told me, and it becomes like an egg, and it just, this thing pops out of it, and it just starts to grow pretty quickly. Just eats blood, and it just gets big, and then and the hive mind works very well on them. He said there's just, if one of them knows it, they all know it. He said, so if you do something to one of them, your chances of running into another one are very high. So, it was, and he said they're really mostly within the earth. They're an inner earth species, but he said that they are a problem in the inner earth. And he said that there have been attempts by other races of beings down there to destroy them or eradicate them. Most recently by reptilians. He said the vampires themselves, the ones that they call the elder vampire, the other than elder, or whatever, the older than elder, they were at war with a species of reptilian that had embedded themselves into the earth. And what's even more interesting is that they supposedly, get this, turned some of those reptilians into vampires. So now they are like an entire race, and they've been an entire race for something like 60,000 years. So this is crazy. They've been down there fighting the other reptilians, and they're their own species now, and they're a vampiric reptilian race. But they're not okay. They're not friends with the original vampires. They still fight them. So they fight each other, and then they fight the vampires, and it's like nobody's getting along. There's a war perpetually. And he said, and this is another thing I asked. In case you're wondering, I asked him, I said, did you see any giants? And he said yes and no. Now, he talked about the 9-foot to 10-foot tall beings that came from another dimension. Those were demonic entities. And they were like giants. But he said as far as like inner earth giants, because I asked him inner earth giants, he said no. He said, but there's records of them. They do exist. And he named 4 places in particular. One was Solomon Islands. He said that they still exist there within the caves and in abundance. The island of Malta was another one. He said the center of Australia was another stronghold, and in the mountains of Asia. And he said in particular near the Himalayas, there's a huge race of them there within the mountains. And he said that they are vicious, and they eat people. And they're not friendly with vampires or werewolves. None of them, they don't play together. Everybody thinks that they're, this ridiculous notion that they're all working for the devil, and there's one devil, then there's a super devil, whatever, and he does whatever. No, that's not what happens. At least what this guy says, and I believe him because I've never thought that either. And so when I asked this guy these questions, and I didn't load the questions, make it to where, he would fire back what I wanted to hear. Nope, I did not do that. I just asked him point blank. Some of the things he told me, I don't know. What I've studied was different. But I mean, he would know better because he was there in those temples and has access to these books. And if he's lying, I got to say this. He's the most well-read fiction story teller that I've ever met in my entire life. Because this guy had a lot of information, and most of it checked out. I would say 85% of it. The other 15% I didn't agree with. I'll say 10% I didn't know. Mm-hmm. Or that's putting too much. Well, there's probably 20% I didn't know. But I'll say at least 15% of it was something that I just was not. I don't know. I wasn't on board with it. Some of the things he talked about, like there are things that some people believe, that I don't believe. And he's one of those people. But then he also admitted to me that he didn't really study too intently on that. He just knows what he read. Because it's not like he just automatically knew everything. And getting hooked up to the demon that attaches itself to you, they have to kind of download, not in a computer sense, but they biologically download information to you bit by bit. It's not an instantaneous thing. Because he said if it was, your head would explode. You don't have
it'd be too much.
Yeah, you don't have the capacity. Your head would explode. So, yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff to unpack here. Carney 48, what do current vampires look for in humans in order to turn them? That's a good question. And unfortunately, I didn't really ask that. But from what I gathered, it was kind of just random. I mean, there were some people they knew not to mess with, like I said, that they considered anointed, but others, they were just fair game. And I think it was just opportunism, just pure and simple opportunism.
Because the way it happened with Jared and Joel was pretty much they were opportunistic.
Yeah, they were just there.
Yeah, it's not like they chose them.
They did though. They chose Gerald.
Yeah, but I mean, like they didn't go out of their way to seek him out.
No, those girls took a. They wanted him.
Yeah.
This is the way I understand it from what going back and talking to Gerald a little bit the day before yesterday, which was Sunday. The way I understand it, what he told me was that he was chosen because of his breeding. They wanted him. He's 6'5", and he was like 300 pounds, and he's a big muscular guy, and he was born with natural strength, and so they wanted him to breed, to help make a big, strong child, whatever. So that's the whole deal behind those women doing what they did.
Someone earlier asked that whenever they transform into their werewolf state, are they still conscious as themselves, or does a demon take over the other?
It's not 100%. No, he's like, there's times when it's a very symbiotic relationship. Both of them told me that. Sometimes the other kind of takes over, and then it's like you work together perfectly. It's not perfect. Nothing is. Mm-hmm. But he said that it works very well, and that this thing can be like, hey, there's something over there, and it just kind of forces your movement, and you see it, and it's like you're 2 in 1. So an average human in a fight against one of these things has no chance, because you're basically fighting a demon and usually a very skilled person. So, yeah, I mean, you're not going to win unless you have God. There is no chance.
Fisher Spam says, how do we identify them?
Whew, that's a question I did ask. Now, and there are some ways to identify a vampire, but I don't want to say certain things because people will go out and see that and go, oh, got to get rid of this person. And then they'll take a stake. And that's another thing. I asked him about a stake, and he said, that'll kill you. But he said, that'll kill most things. Because if you take a piece of wood and you jab it into somebody's chest, well, hell yeah, it's going to kill you. It'll kill whatever, So that's not really true. A piece of wood's not going to kill them. Oh, you want to read some of the questions? My voice is going out.
Let's see. Sarah Jane says, so did Gerald sire children with other women apart from his wife then?
No. Not that he knows of.
Linda, in your dreams, do the ones they drink from die?
What do you think? Not always. But if they're out and about doing what they do, yeah.
And I can't remember who, but someone asked, do they have a preference for a specific blood type?
Damn, that would have been a good question to ask. And I apologize because I didn't ask every question that I should have because, well, I've been going through hell the last few days. Just dealing with stuff with people. I don't want to get into it. But just trying to do what I got to do and live my day-to-day life, and these people just causing problems. So,
Miguel Guerra, did any of them mention in detail what if these other worlds look like and what creatures inhabited them?
Yes. Yeah, and Gerald talked about it, and so did Joel. Gerald did a little more traveling than Joel. Okay, let's put it this way. From what I gathered, Joel jumped from world to world more, but Gerald went further into some of these worlds. He was more equipped. Now, Gerald was a werewolf, and so he was, when he changes into his self, he was more equipped to deal with the creatures that would come at you in some of these worlds. PG63, can you read her question up top there?
Let me find it. Part of watching this is to learn how to protect ourselves. Why can't we identify them to be able to keep out of their way?
For one thing, it's hard to identify them in the way that, because they look just like humans. A werewolf looks like a human too. You or me could be a werewolf and nobody would know it unless you gave it away. The problem, though, is that some people will read into things and think that everybody around them is something or another. I got a story from a woman who was talking about demon possession, and her great uncle, she watched him, his eyes roll back and his arms extend and changed into something. She's like, he wasn't a werewolf, but he thought he was. And it was like almost like she thought that he was making it happen. So what I thought was this possession was probably from one of these others. Looking back on it now, that was something that was told to me months ago, before I met these guys, through Nathaniel. So I would say that would be something, probably, something changed that man, because it was one of these others that slipped out, and this guy was an alcoholic. And these demons get a taste for alcohol or whatever it is, drugs, they pursue it. It could be anything, sex. And so they probably took that man over. That's what I would think. And that's just me. That's me speculating. I don't know. But she told me that her great uncle was changing into this thing or whatever, and she saw it. She was like a 9-year-old girl or something like that. And she said it was terrifying. And one of her older siblings started hitting him with a broom. And he just like hopped around on all fours with his arms and legs stuck in this weird position. And she asked me, she's like, you think it was a werewolf? At the time, I was like, doesn't sound like it, the way he described it. It didn't sound like what I saw. But looking back on it now, it was probably one of these others that got into him, and it started to try to make him change, and it flipped him, whatever.
Yeah.
He ended up in a loony bin. This was in Mexico. So he ended up in a loony bin in Mexico, in I think she said, not Mexico, not Guadalajara, another city down on the coast. But anyway, he ended up in a loony bin, and his arms were forever messed up and elongated, and they could never figure out why.
Oh, dang.
He just was stuck that way, like mid-transformation. And then he gained his clarity back, and he was like, I was possessed. Something possessed me and was trying to make me be a werewolf, which is... So now all you can do is speculate. Hell, I don't know. I mean, there's no way to know.
Under Fire 987 says, did they say anything about manifesting or demanifesting? I've seen it 3 times with Dogman, like just vanishing from sight instantly.
The Dogman phenomenon is very weird, and we've had people who are Bigfoot researchers, just solid Bigfoot researchers, look into the Dogman phenomena, and once they've interviewed like 50, 60 people, they're like, whoa, look, what the hell is going on here? There were Bigfoot researchers and ghost research. I invited ufologists, ghost demonologists, ghost researchers, demonologists. I invited every type of person you could think of, and Anthony can attest to this. We've had hours and hours of conversations with these people, and we gave them witnesses to interview. Ken Gerhard was one of them to interview these people. There were a lot of people. Between me and my associates, we've interviewed over probably a couple thousand people just on the Dogman thing. So all of us have interviewed these people. Barton's another one. He's interviewed a lot of people. We've all done this. There's another guy in there that just showed up, Bigfoot Michigan Rob. And I'm sorry, I apologize once again, Rob. I did not remember that this was your time slot, and I'm sorry I bogarted it, and I won't do that again. Bigfoot Michigan Rob has a really good book put the name of your book out there on there, Rob. And so Rob is another guy. We've all interviewed these people. Tex, the Blondes and Booze, that I'm on with on Thursday, me and Tony, then our old co-host Armando, Anthony. We've all interviewed Nellie. We've interviewed people about the Dogman phenomena and what it is. And it cracks me up because I have access to a database of thousands of reports. And when you take my friends who've interviewed all these other people about all these other types of things, and I'm good friends with people from the International Dogman Project and the North American Dogman Project. Used to be one organization, now it's two. I consider Nick Valenti and Jody Cook both my friends. And I've gotten lots of stories from their people. I mean, they fielded a lot of reports. And I've poured through thousands of these reports. Thousands, just looking at them. Not just reports that I got myself. And I could tell you right now, until about 6 months ago, I don't think I was any closer to know what the hell was going on. And then it's like you hit that fast lane, and I'm telling you, we are just like moving now. And I think that where we're headed is the right direction. Now, do I think that all of these upright canids are werewolves? No. But Joel hit the nail on the head with that. Him and Gerald said the same thing. There are other creatures that look like them, and they're not them. They don't know what the hell they are because they ran into them. And in fact, I will say this, for the Dogman people, Joel, not Gerald, the werewolf, but we keep calling him a werewolf. He's practiced lycanthropy, but Joel claims to have seen. He goes, I think I've seen a couple of these Dogmen you talk about. He's like, Gerald didn't believe in him, but Gerald's never seen Bigfoot. He goes, I have. And what he saw as a Bigfoot was something that was trapped in a cage, and it was being displayed by one of these demonic dickheads. Let's put it that way. And that's what they are. Yeah. They're dickheads. Well, so what ended up happening, he talks to these people, these beings from inner earth, whatever, and they warned them that there were hives of an unstable type phenomena, some of them that look like insects, like wasps. And then he also described these dogmen. And this was a guy who lived within the earth. He said, imagine an 8-foot-tall being that looks completely pale with pointy ears like an elf. This is what he's talking about. And weird little jaggedy teeth and red eyes.
Gross.
And he said in a flat nose with like a hog-like nose that kind of came down at the top. It was weird, ugly. And this was one of the elders of this race of beings. And the name for it was like Agara or some weird name that they had. I don't even want to say it because I don't know what it means, But he said that this particular being he became friends with. And he had a name, and I'm not going to say his name. He started with an E. But this guy told him a lot, and he was there to learn. So he stayed within the earth. Get this. Within the earth. He goes, I was about 100 feet down, which is considered one of the upper levels. He's like, and I slept on a stone bed. He's like, and I did it for about 6 days, and I couldn't take it anymore. He goes, I would hear screaming and shrieking and yelling, and I'm like, what is this? It's like being in a gymnasium with demons. And he said that particular area, when he went back and looked at a map at the Temple of Shea, the other temple was called Gara, but he said that the Temple of Shea, he goes, they had a pretty good map. And he goes, and I saw where I was at. He goes, and where I was at was called the Forbidden Zone. So he goes to one of the elders, and he says, hey, and this guy's name, he's got a normal name, the guy's real name anyway. And he goes to this other guy, Mark, and he says, Mark, I have a question for you. And he said, Mark was one of the most level-headed of the people. He was very much like me because he was not having fun. He was just doing it because he had no choice. He was trapped. But he went to Mark, and Mark was considered like a major, and he was like a captain. So he goes, this is my upline. I go to him, and I say, what is this forbidden zone on the map? And he goes, yeah, dude. He goes, we don't know. We just know that when any of us go there, we usually don't come back. And he was like, well, I got sent there by this witch that he called her a B-I-T word. He goes, she sent me there. And he's like, really? He's like, and how long were you there? He goes, I was there for like 6 days, and I was learning from Mr. E. And he's like, whoa. He's like, dude, okay, who sanctioned that? So he went and did some digging and found out this woman was trying to get him killed. And Mr. E, though, he was not part of the order. But there was an exchange. You know what I mean? There was an even exchange. Mr. E's people were responsible for opening up a spring to help feed them through this sort of like aqueduct that that poison that gets the parasites off of them. That comes because of the other. That attaches to the other. Very odd, weird stuff, I know. But one of the things that he said, he goes, dude, I was there in this cavern. Hang on one second, folks.
Yeah, this goes into the next question I was going to bring up anyway. Barry something or other, I don't know what his last name is, was asking what nastier entities exist in the subterranean realm.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. Taking the knowledge that I already have of what I've studied, and there's no way to know, and I'm going to tell you this 100%, there is no way to know whether or not this stuff is true or real, but you have Argartha, you have, what's it called, Shangri-La, Shambhala. You have all these different places, right? People who claim that they're Lemuria. There's all these different places that are openings to the inner earth, and that's where the inner earth beings dwell. I've heard it said that there are certain places in Colorado, like Durango, places like that, which is weird because Durango, Mexico has a bunch of weird phenomena too, which makes me wonder if that name has anything to do with it. Another one is the Grand Canyon, and there's places in the Grand Canyon you're not allowed to go. Mount Shasta is another one, Amy, yes. So you go to these places and you enter into this underground kingdom. Thousands of reports from people, not just to me, but my network of colleagues, you get all these reports. I poured over tons and tons of reports. I mean, just go to the basic Bigfoot website and you just hear about big hairy creatures running around, right? But when you look at these reports, you start to go, what in the hell is that? Because there's some of these things just don't make sense. It's like weird, wild stuff. So doing research, and trying to find something to cohesively make this make sense. It's like you're fumbling around in the dark until somebody comes along and kind of verifies what you're looking for. And they say, you know what? I got a piece to the puzzle. Look at this. And then like I've been saying since the inception of this show, we pull threads. We've never sat on this show ever and just said, this is the absolute truth. This blah, blah, blah. This guy's story is 100%. I say I believe him or I don't believe him. And I'll say I believe him. If I believe him, I believe him. Or I'll say I'll leave it up to you. It's up to you. But I will say this. Threads are very important. And threads from the very beginning of our show and the investigations we've done have led us to the point where we're at right now. If you watch the show from beginning to end, it has been an evolution. It has been, just keep going, pushing, and maybe we'll get somewhere. Now, of all the encounters we've had people come on the show and tell, and of all the encounters that we've retold, which have been thousands, okay, think about it. How many we don't have and how many we haven't told or how many people we haven't. There's tons of people waiting to get on this show, just like there are tons of stories that people are waiting to tell. I got an email full of them. So if we were to go through and pour through all of them and I had this 500 IQ that these beings had, I could probably get it done. But I don't. I do have a high IQ, but it's not capable of processing all of this. So one thing I will say, if we keep working together, I feel confident that we will be closer to the truth than we were yesterday. And the day after that, we'll be closer to the truth than tomorrow. Does that make sense? I hope it does. That being said, we have something in front of us that's been presented to us, and I would like to let everybody in on what we learned. Now, there's some that are just going to be like, yeah, I want to believe out because they don't care. They don't care. You could literally have a Bigfoot right in front of them, or a dogman, or whatever, flying humanoid, and they would just be like, oh, it's fake. Probably walk right up to it and get their head torn off just because they're not going to believe. They have already made their choice, and they choose to be cynics. And they have reason to be. Some people are such frauds and such hoaxers in this community that there's always somebody perpetuating a hoax or a fraud. So some of these people who go after these people have reason to do that. I've seen it. But also, there are people who just like to warmonger, and they want to cause problems. And they'll go after anybody, no matter who, just because they're cynics. And they'll rip each other apart. Instead of being constructive and trying to break things down and learn, they just go straight for the throat and try to tear down anybody who has any information. That's a big problem. And I do believe we have disinformation agents within our midst. I think they're around. There's one I'm dealing with now. So you have people who are literally, my eyes are burning. You have people who are literally going out of their way to spread, bullcrap and try to hurt the community. Vault of BS, that's a cool name. Question, I have had a heightened sense of strangeness since I was a kid. The first time I had this feeling was around age 6. Does anyone else get this feeling? That's very common. I want to feel comfortable calling you Vault because I don't like that name, but VOB, I'll call you that. That is a good question, okay? That sense that you get, that is your spiritual side of you telling you that something is there. You may have even seen things and maybe you rationalize it in a way and say, well, that's not really what it is, blah, blah, blah. I had that as a child too, which led me to where I'm at now, which is probably why I saw this, upright bipedal canine that I saw when I was 15 with my friend and his family. I would wonder. Vault of BS says Donald is good. Okay, we'll call you Don or Donald, whatever you choose. Here's the thing. When you see what I saw, you have no choice. I talked to a guy who was a skeptic, and he interviewed me, talked to me, and we were talking. And he says, I don't believe in Dogman. And I said, that's your choice. I don't have a choice to believe in it. I saw it. My friend saw it. And then after 2 years, 3 years of talking to different people, a bunch of other people have seen it in my hometown. And the family that I was with, they saw it too. So I can't sit there and say, well, no, I don't believe in it. Now, I've never seen a Bigfoot. My wife saw something that I think was a Bigfoot, but I saw like a side profile, so I can't say I saw a Bigfoot, and I don't claim that. I'm very much like my friend Lyle Blackburn. He saw something in the Falk Woods. He came on the show and talked about it, but he doesn't really claim it as an encounter because he didn't get a good enough look at it. So I don't go around saying, yeah, I saw that, because I don't know. I don't know. And as a lot of people know, there's a lot of bullcrap out there. That's not what we do here. Bernard Fox says, thinking disinformation is the new nothing written anymore. No way to fact check physical papers like in the old Bond movies. Yeah, digital faces are hard to check. Exactly. A lot of weird stuff on this planet. Magpie says, that's like me, my childhood ghost encounter. I don't try to convince people anymore, and you can't. Hey, B. Moss, I see you. Shout out to everybody in the chat. What's up, girl? I'm proud of you. You got L.A. Marzulli coming on tomorrow. That's a good guess. That's a big one. I mean, that's awesome. He's been somebody that I've wanted to talk to for a while, but I've just never tried. So, I mean, I just been too busy to even. I'm so backed up right now. I'm so glad that you got it, though. What? Barry Acoustis says when you see Bigfoot, you will die. What? Are you joking? What does that mean?
I mean, if that was the case, there wouldn't be any reports of it.
Yeah, because if you see Bigfoot, you die. Maybe he's saying like later on you'll die. Well, Barry, no truer statement has ever been made because guess what, baby? We're all going to die. It's like the preacher said. Everybody wants to go to heaven, but don't nobody want to die. That's the truth. Ooh, Area Trance says, my first encounter was a woman calling my name as I went to bed at 7. So I just stayed still. Yeah. Pretty creepy. Amy Grills. Birth is the leading cause of death. 100% of people who are born die. We would, here at the Living Forever
100% of
Society, we would like to change that. For a simple donation of $2.99 per minute, you too can live as long as it takes for you to die.
Everyone who's ever drank water has died. We need to ban hydrogen monoxide.
Everybody who's ever drank water has had 100% death rate. Please stop the killing.
Or what would it be? Dihydrogen monoxide, H2O. We need to ban it. Anea says, I had male voices coming from a tree today. I quickly went back inside.
Oh.
That's creepy.
I'm telling you, man, I sit there in my study and I read encounters. And Anthony can't even walk by without me yelling, hey, come here, let me show you. And he's like, trying to wash my clothes, man. I'm like, look, dude, look at this. Check this out. This person sent me this encounter and it's, whatever. It happens. It happens all the time. And sometimes trying to talk to people is stressful. I will say this, and I said this before. Me and Gerald got into it. I called him a smartass. He's just a gruff dude. He's a gruff old dude. He doesn't care. He don't care whether whatever. And Joel and me didn't agree on everything. Thank you for that donation, Amy Creel. We appreciate it. We don't agree on everything. We're not going to agree on everything. That's completely okay. We're not here to argue and fight. And whether you believe in the physical or the spiritual or whatever, I'm not the judge of that. I'm only here to relay what I've been told. And it's up to you to choose to believe or not believe. That's it. Oh, yeah, Jake S. Sure, I do believe that. You read that?
Yeah, so he says, hey, Wolf, do you think these werewolves/vampires have been around since the trials in Europe?
I do. Way before that. And here's the thing, too. After the show that we did with the werewolf, the impromptu werewolf stories, which became Werewolf Confessions, there was somebody that reached out to me, and she was very snarky, and she was like, well, it's convenient in your show, and you found somebody, blah, blah, blah. And I said, lady, okay, I'm pretty smart, okay? I've been at this for 5 years, this show, and I was on the other guy's show for 2. I was like, don't you think in 7.5 years or however long it was, don't you think that I would have been able to come up with this before? This was something I just came up with or whatever. I could have come up with this years ago. This is one of those things, it happens and you got to seize the moment. You can't just ignore this. And so I told her that. I said, think about that. I could have thought of this 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Because there was another YouTuber, if you remember, and I'm not going to say his name, but I think he's full of shit, excuse my language, but he was on there with this hunter that was over there. Yeah, I went out and I killed 15 Bigfoot and 25 Dogman and 100 werewolves and tied them to the back of my truck and blah, blah, blah. Shut up. Shut up, okay? These guys aren't even saying that they did all, this is not a fantasy novel or a science fiction. What they're saying is what happened. And they were very, very, exactly, Aleph. So they were very, very upfront about it. And they said, this isn't like the movies, It wasn't like every day something's going on, Like I said before, you live in a haunted house. It's not the Amityville Horror every day. I lived in a house that had if you want to call it a haunting, but it wasn't every day. It was like cyclical. Sometimes there would be months and nothing would happen. And then, boom, something happens. And there were weird things that happened. Like I'd be sitting there, working at my desk in my study, and the TV would come on in the den, and the Cubs game would come on. Like the Cubs all the time. It was weird. Balta BS says, I told my first interaction, but I became a nervous wreck trying to tell my second, and I did things I'm not proud of. Like what? You don't have to tell us on here. Get in touch with me, and maybe we can talk. You got that right, Area Trans. I can tell you that. They do. It is wild. And the more you learn, too, from different people, the more people you talk to, the more that you delve into these subjects, the more freaky the world becomes. 5 years ago, I would have been like, I don't know, man. Anthony, you too. Like, we didn't really know the inner earth. Like, I've read about it. Mm-hmm. But I just thought, that's a cute book, Edda Dorpa, and it's like, well, like the Shaver Mysteries, it's a cute idea, but is it really what's going on? You know what I mean? Like, I was not really sold on that. And then the more people came to me and started telling me, hey, the world's not what you think it is. Some of these old heads, as they call them, they would be telling me, man, the world's not what you think it is. And one of them was a very prominent Bigfoot researcher who was telling me, look, dude, He didn't come out and say it publicly because he didn't want to get roasted, but he goes, dude, he followed one of these creatures down into a hole, like a cave. And it just kind of crawled down and slid down into it. And he's thinking, how did that creature just flatten itself out and go into that cave? Immediately he becomes, that this is not, it's not that they're not physical, it's that they're not physical in the way we think they are.
Yeah.
They're physical. They're doing physical things. And I am convinced, I am 1,000% convinced, and I am going to prove it to you. I am going to go out there, and I'm going to club a Bigfoot upside the head, and I'm going to put it in the bag, and I'm going to show you. No, just kidding. No, I'm convinced that we found habitation. I kid you not. I believe that we found habitation close to civilization because I think that's where it's at. I don't think you have to go deep into the woods. I think these people are going way out of the woods are wasting their damn time because I think that the ones that you're going to see are going to be close to suburbia. I do believe that. It's a feeling.
They're going to be beneath us.
Yeah. They could be walking beneath us. I mean, it doesn't make sense that these people, they have to have this, I'm out in the woods thousands of miles away from a cell phone and tower and, blah, blah, blah. I'm out here risking my life and limb. Let me go jump into this water. It's freezing cold and I may die of hypothermia. Somebody's videoing it back at the shore, so it's really not that damn dangerous, but I'm going to do it. Look, the truth is you don't have to do all that.
I think cave divers and spelunkers are more likely to see,
Oh, God. Some of the stuff that we've heard from them is nuts.
Yeah.
Like the guy with the spiders all over the walls and stuff. Oh, my gosh. That story was retold on somebody's TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
And one of those people that speak very horribly, and they have the screen moving around behind them, and they're like, and then the guy, the spiders came, he was touching the spiders. He's like, in his mouth,
Yeah, they got to do that to keep the attention span of the Zoomers.
The
Gen Zers.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
I was like, this guy is horrible. Who the hell is watching this guy? He had good information, but he was just like, the way he talked was horrible. I mean, I thought, man, if this guy can do that, I could do that, but I'm not going to use TikTok. I just can't do it.
Yeah, it's a garbage platform.
It is. Do we have any 18s?
Let me check.
To get one.
I don't know.
Yeah, paranormal TikTok is cancer. It's just trash. Mel's hole, bottomless hole to the underworld. Yes, I very much believe that, and there are a lot of people. One thing that my colleague Eric Palacios from Media Palace has said many times to me when we've talked, he says, think of all these ranchers here in Central Texas. And we've done a little research together, and he says, look, a lot of this is private property. He goes, and I know some of these places have huge holes into the earth. Think of the episode of Fight for Your Life that we got from Franklin. I almost said his last name. But that guy, former military, and he gets attacked by these creatures who are killing a cow. And he almost lost his life. He didn't talk to me like, hey, man, he didn't pursue me. I pursued him. I wanted to hear his story because a security guard at a hamburger joint that we know about down on Guadalupe told us. He says, hey, I know another guy who works security who's been around, and he's had some weird things happen. And he was very suspicious of me, and he's like, who are you? And I said, I'm Josh Turner, known as Wolf. And he's like, oh, like the country singer. I said, yes, like the country singer, just not as famous. And I gave him my card, and I said, well, if you feel like talking, hit me up. And a while goes by, and then he messages me and says, let's meet. And so I did, and then he told me. And he said, if you're going to laugh at me, I'm just going to walk off. I'm not even going to entertain you. I'm going to just hang up the phone, whatever. And I said, dude, whatever. I'm not going to do that to you. I'm not that guy. And I'm not going to judge you. Send me your stories, and we'll talk. And listening to him tell that story, he's like, have you ever heard anything crazy like that? I said, absolutely. I've heard a lot of crazy things of Dogman, Bigfoot, demons, chasing people, attacking people. The world is not the way you think it is. And I don't care if you believe that the moon is made of green cheese. I don't give a crap. You believe what you want. I know the truth. Okay? And I'm not going to sit up here and say anybody's story is 100%. But where there's smoke, there's fire. That's what I'm saying. So, all right, VOB, Donald, get in touch with me. Get you some sleep. Yes, Corey Cole. He was the one. The Bulls. Yes, the Bulls. The Bulls came to his rescue, which was, he thought it was like a coincidence, and then he said that couldn't have been. There's no way that could have been a coincidence. And he told us, he said, there's no way. He goes, I thought it was, but it wasn't. No way. He's like, there was something else going on there, and I believe, like he does, that it was divine intervention. It had to be. And I've heard people I got a story recently from a guy, and I threw this one by Gerald, because I hope that Gerald and Joel can be, maybe not my friends, but at least we can stay on speaking terms, and maybe I can throw some questions by him. And they said, sure. If you have anything you want to throw by us that you want to check, cross-check, whatever. He said, and this is Joel talking. He goes, we don't know everything, but we can give you a pretty good guideline of what we know, So what ended up happening, he said, this guy, he said, this dude that gave me a story, he talked about this angel coming down and swiping this dogman creature that was chasing him through a field with a sword. Like it split him in two. And this thing was like a being of light, and then it just kind of dissipated into like little sparks. So I threw that story that I got. It was a lot more to it. I haven't fleshed it all out. So I talked to these guys, and I told Gerald and Joel, I said, is that possible? And he said, yeah, it is possible. He goes, I've heard, this is Joel. He said, I've heard my colleagues talking about angels intervening and just destroying them, just killing them. And he said that these people, that when you mess with somebody who's anointed, he goes, there is a divine intervention. And I threw the bull story out there, and I said, is this possible? And this is the thing that he said, too. He said, oftentimes, animals will come to the rescue of people with these creatures. He's like, there was a guy who was hiking up in the Sierra Nevadas, and this is a crazy story. And I thought this was very interesting. He said there was this guy named Evan, and he said, dude, this guy got attacked by this Bigfoot-type creature, and this guy was telling, this isn't a story from me, this is a story he told Joel. And he said, I got attacked. This was a guy from his church. He said it looked like a big, giant, stinky ape-type creature, a Bigfoot, basically. And this mountain lion jumped on its back and started biting its neck and clawing it, and he was spinning around trying to get off of him, and he goes, and I ran away. He's like, and then I get about 2 or 3 miles, he goes, and I'm a runner. He goes, I was running anyway. And he says, and I see the mountain lion running alongside me, and then it just kind of like stops and looks, and then he just keeps looking back at it and runs into the woods. And he believes that it was divine intervention. And he knows that Bigfoot, he didn't kill that Bigfoot, but it got him off of him. Now, what is that? Now, there's Native American legends that talk about these familial spirits that are from ancestors that will protect you. One of them comes to mind about the Hawaiian legend of the Shark King. The Shark King is one of them. There are legends and stories of sharks trying to attack these Hawaiians that are out there on these boats, and another larger shark will come and attack them and get rid of them, and then kind of just take off into the depths. What is that? How fortunate, right? Yeah, P. Gene, I think so too. I think God uses animals. Connie, says, did Joel or Gerald say anything about Goatman or fairies or Norwegian giant trolls? We talked about the giants. I didn't ask him about the ice caves of Iceland, about the trolls there, but no, I didn't get anything about trolls, but Goatman or fairies, unfortunately I didn't ask that either. I wish I would have. But this is not something I can't ask them and maybe get an answer from, and at some point maybe I can get back with you guys. Charles V., what is Boke Dig? What is that? Yes, Andy says, can you talk more about Gerald physical transformation? I asked about it. Now, there are some people who say that it looks painful. And Joel told me that. He said, by watching the werewolf, the one that are strictly, that's what they do. They become like an in-between hybrid human werewolf because you can't perfect whatever it is you're trying to do because you're not God. And they have a very unique perspective because they've played for both teams. They were on the dark side, and now they're on the light side. But one of the things he said was a spiritual transformation takes place first, something that you see it kind of like come over, and it's kind of like, you know, the person is suspended, and then their body just kind of like starts to morph, and it's real quick, and boom, boom, boom. It's not this and all that stuff. That's not what happens. According to what this guy said, you might get something that'll throw them onto the ground and they'll lurch forward and then kind of like it'll pop out, you know, the head, everything. But that's because the other is like, you know, it's destabilized for some reason. But typically, he says if that's happening, there's something behind it. Something has disrupted or upset this being. And he said that drugs and alcohol will do that. And when they start having trouble transforming, that's a dead giveaway. And they get like a test, like every few months, they'll have to come in and just at random, kind of like a random drug test, and they'll have to shift in front of everybody. And if there's any weird inconsistencies or abnormalities, they'll know. And typically they already know. That's why they're calling you in there. And if you don't show up, they'll hunt you down and they'll kill you. Simple as that. No questions asked if you don't do what they're telling you. And your other will tell you, we have to go to the temple. They don't have to call you on the phone. They don't leave paper trails or digital trails or anything. It's all spiritual. That's what people don't understand, is that this stuff is done spiritual. The sooner you accept the fact that we are in a spiritual war, that warfare is upon you at all times, whether you want to or not, whether you want it to be or not. It doesn't matter what you want, what I want. It matters what is. The Holy Spirit is constantly working through us to try to defeat these beings. And believe it or not, we're outnumbered. Big time. There are more people wanting to be evil nowadays than good. Believe me. And some people are just in there masquerading to be good, and they're not good at all. And at the drop of a hat, they'll come after you. It's happening to me. People you think are friends, it don't matter. These dudes that are involved in all this dark magic and all this stuff, they don't give a crap. They do not care. They're sociopaths, top to bottom. That's right, Manny Torres, you can't. If you have a question, put it in all caps. Hey, Rye, how you doing? I hope you're enjoying the new group. Nelly turned over Paranormal Lounge to Rye Voss, Codega's Codex of Curiosity. It's a mouthful. The CCC. But he's calling it, what is it called? Town Hall?
I think Paranormal or Supernatural Town Hall Sessions, I believe.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep up with everybody's stuff. Lisa says, can you explain more about the Matrix part? Okay. From what I understand, the world is a matrix, and when you're within the other, not always, but most of the time, you can kind of see it. You see the outlines of it. And he said that it has an orange glow to it, sort of like a weird halo that goes around the earth. Another thing that I didn't totally agree with when he said this was, and get this, I mean, he said that the earth is not round. So he said that it's like round, but not a sphere. And it's weird. It kind of wobbles. It's you know, that's one thing we start arguing about. I was like, how's that, you know? But he goes, you can believe it or not believe it. And then you can jump from sphere to sphere. And Antarctica is not a continent, according to him, because he says he's been there. And he said it's all the way around the earth. He said, if you go in any direction, you'll hit Antarctica. And I said, is that true? And he said, yes, it is. Now, the weird thing about that, I've done a lot of research that I'm still trying to figure out, but there's a lot of pilots and a lot of ship captains that say the same thing. And I've interviewed probably at least 2 or 3 dozen of them, and I don't know what to tell you. I mean, we want to believe things a certain way, and I don't know. I got to do some research on that. Yeah, PG, yeah, like the ice ring, ice wall. That's not, I'm not going to sit here and say that's my belief because I don't know. Don't know. Anonymous, yes, I do. Manuel Flores says, how does one become anointed? That's how you become anointed. You say the prayer. You ask Christ to come into your heart and save you from your sins, and you mean it, and you ask for forgiveness from your past, and you start over. You're washed in the blood of the Lamb, and you are changed. You go into the whatever. If you want to reaffirm it in the physical, you go and get baptized. Then you're anointed. but you have to live it. You can't just be like, yeah, I'm anointed while you're smoking.
It's not a one and done thing.
Smoking crack. I'm anointed. Oh, I'm anointed. Oh, I'm so glad God loves me, man.
Yeah.
If you're doing all that, you might as well forget it, baby, because you ain't going to survive. And I've never sat up here and said I'm the most holiest of holies. I've always been very honest about who I am and what I am. I just tell it like I know it. That's just me, baby. I don't. There's none of this fluff, bull crap. I'm not fluffing you, whatever, There's no pillow filling there. It's just, boom, whatever. And I'm the same person I am. Some people said I'm acting. This ain't acting, okay? I know actors. Matthew McConaughey used to live in Austin. He's an actor. Go talk to him. He's acting, okay? There's been a lot of actors I've known over the years, and I met for months. He came to my club while they were filming. Forrest Whitaker. He's an actor. I've had conversations with the guy. That's an actor. I'm not an actor. I'm not up here pretending to be something that I'm not. I'm just who I am. Everybody's a work in progress, BJ. Everybody. There are no perfect Christians. There are people who act so pious and so ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll sit up there and judge you. Right now that's happening. We're getting followed around by a pack of them who think that they're the holiest of holies, and they'll show up anywhere we go and they'll attack me every time I go to anybody's show. They'll be. You watch the comment section on here. Watch what they say about me. You'll know. You'll see the same names. They'll say a bunch of mean, nasty stuff,
Oh, Anthony Mills has a good question. He says, do you think Saint Germain was a vampire or alchemical immortal?
I don't know. I don't know. You stumped me on that one. You win the $1 million prize today, buddy, because I don't know, man. That's a good one. We did a show on immortals, and this is something I want to tell you. This is a weird thing, too. You know how when we do a show about something, we always get more people. We've already gotten about a dozen people saying that they're werewolves, or not that they are, but that they know people who are werewolves or vampires. Mm-hmm. A dozen of each. Heck, one lady got in touch with Nellie and said her mother was. We had a guy on this show that said his uncle was. So you got to wonder, But nobody has yet to come forward after the immortal stories that we talked about. And there's been one, I think one, right?
Yeah.
That's it. I keep waiting for more people to come up with immortal stories to tell me, hey, somebody's going to come up to me and say, hey, there's more. And then we can talk about them. But I don't know. I don't know. I think I might have known one, but there again. And here's what I'm going to tell you, and this is going to sound crazy, cuckoo bananas, right? I'm the crazy guy. Listen to what I'm going to tell you. Every one of you listening to this and everybody who's going to listen to this, you have been exposed to a mountain of paranormal phenomena. I promise you that is the truth. You have been exposed to it, and you maybe didn't notice it or you didn't see it, but I guarantee you somebody in this chat right now, 528 people, somebody has probably met an immortal. Because according to Gerald and Joel, they exist. And we're not talking about the ones that work with them. They're not immortal. They said that they do exist. They have heard of immortals. And that there are only, so many of them. And I asked Joel, and I said, if you had to put a number on it, and he didn't balk. He said, I don't know. I can't tell you. He's like, and he goes, and I've never heard anybody say a number. He goes, but if I thought about it, my own estimate, he said, I would say there's not a whole lot. Maybe, one or two in a city, He said he thinks that there's more than people would think, but, and because he has heard of people running into them and meeting them, and they do live forever. And some of them could have been here since the beginning of time because it could have been something from a previous age, and it was just a holdover. That's interesting, Panzer. That is interesting. But hopefully some people will send us something, you know, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Maybe one day we'll get some more. But it is funny because we've talked about everything on this show, right? And we always get more stories when we talk about something. People will pop up and say, hey, I saw this, I heard this, blah, blah, blah. But nothing. Hey, hell yeah. That would be awesome, Panzer. I have a lot of photos, man. I have a huge, library of photos. But it doesn't do any good because, I have pictures of ghosts, from one of them that was behind me, December 24th, which is Christmas Eve of 1997, at the nightclub I was working at the end of the night, and it was right behind me. And if I posted it, people will say it's fake. Doesn't matter. Thanks to freaking AI.
True Origins Unknown has a question. They say, do we go into that dark world when we sleep?
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
Because what if that city of night is just one of the alternate worlds that he was talking about?
Thank goodness you said that, because that was one of the questions. We talked about that yesterday, and we didn't get into it on the show. Thank you for remembering that, and thank you for who said that.
True Origins Unknown.
True Origins Unknown. Thank you for that. Okay, let's get into that for a minute. But first, let me take a drink. So, the City of Night. What episode was it that we first talked about that? It was the Laura Ketchledge episodes.
It was early in the show. Let me see. I don't know.
So, I think it was like episode 39 or something like that. It was way back.
Yeah, episode 38, 39.
38, 39. Go back and watch those. How many views do those have?
The first one has 7.1 thousand.
Not very many.
Yeah. The second one, I can't see it, but probably even fewer.
Wow. See, where the pertinent information is, people don't like the title, so they don't, I'm not going to watch it. They just don't. It's weird. So here's what I'm going to tell you. The City of Night is a place where I've been many, many, many times. And I dubbed it that, and I started calling it that. And a couple of my colleagues since, have talked about being there and having been there and had weird things happen. But I'll tell you this, I know 100% that it exists. It is a real place. And this is something I did talk to Joel and Gerald about, and Gerald referred me to Joel. He said Joel would know more about that kind of stuff. He said, though, he goes, I know that I've been to the fringes of this place. He said, but if you go there in the physical form, he's like, you're not going to come back. That was what Gerald told me, werewolf guy. And I said, why is that? He goes, because even a werewolf won't come out of there. He goes, they have sentinels there that are like magnets that'll draw you in, and they will hold you there. He goes, they'll remove your other from you. He's like, and it'll become a prisoner, and so will you. Wow. And I was like, what? I said, then how am I able to go there? He goes, because you're a normal human. He goes, and you have, and this isn't, but I don't like, he gave me a compliment. He says, you're a very strong-spirited person. And then he said, do you know anybody else that goes there? I said, yeah, my friend Scorpio. And Scorpio goes there and he talks. I could get him on the show and have Scorpio tell you what happens to him. Is he in the chat? Message him and see if he's in the chat.
Okay.
Wedge Antilles, yes. And some of them were slaves to other beings, other races of beings. That's a good question too. The Chislander, what does it say? The Tech Islander, what is that? Some of the names are hard to read.
The Tech Islander.
Okay, is that
It's just all one word.
Okay, the Tech Islander. There you go. Hey, you got me. Scorpio. Okay. So when Scorpio how many people here have heard Scorpio talk about when he goes to the city of night? Because he got hit in the head. Back in the day, we had a violent life, and Scorpio was one of my really close associates and one of my bodyguards. And he got hit in the head when he was in a street gang before I met him. And so he quit dreaming because he didn't dream. Then he started having dreams. And he started describing going into a dark world, a flip world, where everything was dark and there were dim lights. There was never any sunlight there. And he told me about it. And I told him, I said, dude, this is crazy because I've been doing this for years. I've been going to this place. And he says, yeah, I go there, but when I'm there, I can't leave. And he's waking up tired all the time. And so I did a little research. And what I learned was that there's a lot of people who've been there. And Joel has been there many times. And that is a crazy thing because we had a whole long conversation about it. We had like a 30, 40 minutes of was just about that. So that is a very, very interesting thing. What's the time here?
It's 10:34.
Okay, I got about 20 minutes. Okay, so here what we got. Not even that. So here's what we got. He tells me that he has been there. Scorpio goes there. Now, I ran into Scorpio, and he was trapped like in like an apartment building or a hotel. So when I wake up, I go over to his room, and I knock on the door, and he said, not only was I there, I was stuck in a hotel. Yes, exactly. Okay. So I knocked on the door, and I woke him up. And he told me a wild story. I said, dude, I just had a weird dream about you. He said, I just dreamed about you too. And we started talking. Slim Jimmy, thank you for that donation. Started to think nobody cared about me or loved me. So Gary Scorpion tells me, he says, dude, I had a weird dream. And I said, okay, you go first. When he tells me, I was like, dude, I was finishing his sentences, and I'm not joking. And we figured out that we were both in the same place. And I was able to move in and out of the place. He couldn't. He was stuck. And I kept trying to pull him out, and he couldn't come. There was no doors. Very weird. Very weird. So when I talked to Joel about it, Joel gave me this. And this is what he said. He said, you can go there if you are in the spirit. He's like, but if you go there in the flesh, he's like, you're doomed. You will not return. I said, dang, that's what, Gerald said. And he said, yeah. He says, Gerald didn't venture too far into that place. He goes, I explored it quite a bit. He goes, it's one giant city. He goes, and then the outskirts of it, he's like, if you walk far enough, you'll just hit a wall, and it just goes into a round circle. And I said, kind of like how you describe Earth. And he says, yes. And he goes, and I know, Mr. Turner, you don't believe me. And I said, well, I've never been to the outskirts of the whatever. But it was weird. Yes, Scorpio says the hotel was always changing and a maze that wouldn't let you reach your goal. Yes, exactly. That's what I saw. But you have to make your own door. That's what I did. I made a door of light and I went through it. Sounds crazy, but when you're out of your body, this is what happens. At the risk of sounding like an insane person, okay, I'm telling you the truth. This is not a joke. We are not making this up as we go along. We're not talking crazy stuff. This is the truth, okay? This is real. We've talked about this on the show before. So what Joel said, he goes, I went through there, and I ended up there. He goes, and I was separated from my other. He goes, but sometimes it was liberating. He goes, my other was not one of these stifling others that was always like on you, whatever. It gave me a lot of leeway. And he's like, I was fortunate in that because there were others that were terrible. They were like taskmasters. And he said that mine wasn't a good guy, but he wasn't the worst. He just was there. So he said, I left. And I came out of my body, which I did quite often. And I would use it to spy. And sometimes me and the other would split up, and we would go and we would get exchange, we'd get information, we'd meet back up. And a lot of times, he goes, we would end up coming up out of the pool that I have in my backyard. He goes, I don't know why, it just seemed like we ended up in the water. He's like, but anyway, he goes, I go to this place. First time I was there, he's like, I was not a real old guy. I wasn't very old, I was still young. He's like, and I thought, what a nightmare world. I never want to go there again. And he goes, and then I went there again, and it was more lucid, more real, more like the reality that we live in. He said, the third time I went there, it was more real than the reality I went in. And then I realized that the longer I was there, the more I was becoming a resident of this place. He's like, and I didn't like it. Scorpio says, the past few times I've dreamt about there, I've been outside the hotel, but I couldn't reach the edge of the city to leave it completely. Yes, that's. So what he did, he just started walking. But he said you could also float. He goes, in this city, you can move around like a normal human or you can float. It's up to you. But he said that walking seemed to be a safer way to move around because you were not noticed as much. You were just considered a normal human, and only the normal humans would walk, typically, because that's what they do in their regular life, and they treat it like they, so if you're walking around, these sentinels, they don't look at you and go, what are you doing? Why are you just, he said, but if you float, you can move quicker and you can get around, but they'll start chasing you because then they know that you're not a normal human. So they'll just come after you. And so what he told me was a crazy story. He says, so the fourth time, he says, I documented it, every bit of it. And I consulted the Black Book, which is their demonic manual of bullshit, whatever. Excuse my language, but yeah, that's what it is. It's evil. It's not BS. I mean, it's real, but it's evil crap. So what he goes, I was there the fourth time. He's like, and so I figured out, like, I'm just going to walk around. He said, and there are people there moving around like drones. They're just like zombies. It's like a zombie world. And everybody's exhausted and tired because the people that are there, and not everybody's a human. They're from other places. Some of them are trapped because they died. And it's like a purgatory. It's a purgatorial world, okay? That's my thought of it. That's not what he told me, but that's what I think. And he said what he believed was that they were batteries. They were being used like human batteries. And that's what I believe too, because me and Scorpio said that. It seems like they were trying to harvest because the hotel apartment place that Scorpio was in, it was full of people walking up these stairs and going into these rooms and piling into the rooms and just becoming really tired. I'm not joking. It was freaking weird. And so this guy, Joel, he says that's what they do. They're harvesting you. And he said, so I just I just watched. I observed. He's like, and there were these shadows that would move around the ground and then pop up. And they were these like sentinels, and they would come floating towards you, and you would have to kind of like, he goes, one of them got really close to me. And he goes, you can't see anything right here. It's just eyes. And it was just looking, kind of looking. And he's like, it was like on me. And I was just like kind of turning. And I thought, this thing it's going to grab me. And so finally he goes, I just waited, and then it just went on. And it just assumed that I was a normal person. And he said, okay. And then I just left. And he goes, and then I got outside the city, and there was like this black lake. He goes, and then I recognized it's a very watered down version of our dark water that we use to get evil with, So he says, I floated over the top of it, and something came up out of there that was black, the black goo that was like a thicker version of it, and tried to grab me. So I pulled up. He's like, and I was like, whoa. And it just kept coming up, trying to get me. And then eventually it stopped and went back down. He goes, so I don't have no idea what's in that goo. He's like, you never do. So if you're floating over the top of it and it grabs you, he goes, you're screwed, because it's just going to make you become part of whatever that is. It's abysmal water is what it is. Yes, and the Black Lake. Yeah, there's a lake there. I saw that. I walked out and I went up on this hill and I looked down and you could see the lights of this other side of the city. And it looked like a what do you call that? Like a power plant on the other side or something. My dad used to work at one. I remember looking and thinking it was a dream, that I was dreaming about a power plant. And I said, that's weird, man. But then I had this clarity that hit me that black lake, that whatever it is, it's like goo. It's like a black goo. And so then you start to come to the realization that you don't want to go near that. Because if you do, and I just like instinctively knew, I was like, dude, that thing, that'll take you and you'll become a part of that. Your essence will be gone. It'll become that. And so it was whatever was being done at that power plant looking place. For my mind, I think that had something to do with that goo. I don't know what, but I don't know what the connection is. I didn't get close enough. And I don't want to. Maynard says, I heard some other references to the City of Night kind of place on the podcast. Where did the road go? Yeah, Nia, you stopped at the lake. Yeah, don't go any further, because if you go onto that lake, you will end up stuck there. That's not something you want. So any more questions? I want to thank everybody who's donated to help with the camera fund. We have somebody who says they're going to send me some camera equipment. I don't know what it all consists of. I don't know if it's going to be what we need or what we're going to get or whatever. But we do need some supplies to do what we got to do, which is to go to these places where I want to explore. It's one of my goals that we're going to eventually get to. And my wife got back today to working on the board game. So we're talking about who we're going to use for the characters of the game. And I know that the two ladies, Krista and Brandy, will be involved because they're going to be two of the female characters. Area Trans says that place is a reflection of the abyss. Great chat. Yeah, very possibly. I don't know. Yeah, we're going to get back to the board game. We're getting down to the part where we got to just finish the last bit, so we know what we're going to be putting into mass production. So we want to get that done. I got some news about the conference. Everybody's asking about the conference. Right now, I'm about 70% that we're not going to do it. I know that's a letdown, but the people that have done what they're doing recently, these religious zealots, I think one of them took it to another level, and I just don't feel comfortable. Today it was weird. Something happened, and I'm not even going to get into it. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to give these people any airtime. You know, they are on a mission, and they're stalkers is what they are. And they've stalked me to everybody else's show. Everywhere I'm at, they show up, and it's been harassment. And these aren't the Filthy Five and their people. In fact, one of the Filthy Five warned me about one of them before all this popped off. So go figure. Actually, warned me about two of them. So, you know, it's familiarity breeds contempt. What is that? Anthony Mills played Control or Alan Wake games. They feature the hotel you speak of in the astral realm. Never heard of that. Any cryptid action figures? Yeah, we had a line of action figures. I didn't know if you knew that or not. I didn't know if anybody didn't know that. We had an entire line of them. There's a whole bunch of them sitting in my storage room. Lisa, they are. You know, there's three of them in particular that They claim to be my friends, but they're not. Anybody know what to do about an ashy elbow? Look at that. It's on one side, it's not on the other. It's just on that one. It just popped up a couple days ago, man. So, any ideas? Give me some suggestions on lotion. What to do about it? Because it just like shows up when I work out a lot and I lift weights a lot and I'm always putting my arms on everything. It starts to like get real dry and like for some reason and then when you sweat it makes it worse. Cocoa butter, I hate that kind of stuff. I hate putting greasy stuff on me, man. Vaseline, exfoliate. Maybe there you go. Because I use that Black Wolf, what do you call that? What is it? The charcoal soap, and it didn't really seem to help. But we'll see. Morgan says, tell us how to better protect our homes. Plead the blood of Jesus. Get the Saint Benedict, do what I do. Go from room to room and say, I rebuke you in the name of Christ. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. I rebuke you in the name of Christ. Keep doing that over and over again. You'll feel it. It'll come out and you'll feel it all over you. It'll try to get on you and, it's like, ugh. But my leg popped. Eventually you will get rid of it. Not you, but the power of Christ will get rid of it. Believe me. Aloe vera? It doesn't itch, Dave. It's just like an ashy elbow or whatever. It's not even my elbow. It's just right here. See? I don't know what that is. Means you're getting old. Next it'll be your knees. I don't have it anywhere else. It's just right there on my arm. And it really only gets onto one side, it'll be on this side or that side. It just picks a side and it's just there. And don't worry, my wife will see it now and she'll probably do something about it. She's got all kinds of stuff, man. When I was a single guy, I had no clue how women did all this stuff. I get a nail that's kind of, hangnail, whatever. She just takes it, files it, and it's over. It's done. She's like a magic. She just fixes it, just whatever. But not magic in the way these people do, I didn't ask him anything about the moon. One of the first things Gerald said was it has nothing to do with the moon changing. It has nothing to do with the moon. At least for him, it didn't. For him, it didn't. Now, one of the things that Joel told me, Gerald said it had nothing to do with the moon, but Joel said that there are people who worship, and they use like a lunar calendar or something to worship these deities or whatever, and certain phases of the moon will give them more energy. Like the being that he entered into was Mr. E, the weird elf-eared looking dude that had a weird name, and he said that guy, who was a part of a race of beings, but there wasn't a whole lot of them. There were small little enclaves, and they lived in this very volatile area of the inner earth, the upper inner earth, and not the most top part, like where the average caves are. You go, this was over 100 feet down. And he said there was like a path you had to follow, and at some places he had to like use his ability to shapeshift to squeeze in. You couldn't get through. And he said that I'm a tall guy. He's like, I'm not real, big, but I could get through. But he goes, he wasn't even supposed to be there. He thought he was supposed to be learning something and going through some kind of, initiation to get to the next level. No, this woman was trying to get him killed, what she was trying to do. But E, according to him, they had sort of a mutual agreement with these vampires. And so he wasn't going to mess with it. It wasn't him that was going to hurt him. It was going to be the other stuff. So he stuck close to E, and E told him, don't go down this, and if you go down, don't go to the left, because that path will take you down to a place where you don't want to be. Thank you, Kate Hunter, for that donation. That'll really help. And so, he said that there were some really dangerous places that he went to. City of Night was one of them, and it was interesting how we could sit there and exchange information about the City of Night, and he thought that was cool that I had been there, and he was like, that's amazing that you've been there. And I told him, I said, yeah, I've been there, so was my friend. And, yeah. Ray Norman says, it sounds like Lord of the Rings may have some truth. It's weird because when you look at Tolkien and his vision of what he, considered, the Middle Earth and all that, and the different times, the different ages and all that, I think he was onto something. I really do. I think that guy had a lot of insight.
Well, I know that scene when the trees come alive and they wreck everything in Isengard. That's like kind of, it's similar to something that happens in the Quran, where like in the end times, even nature becomes like sentient and starts like rebelling against all the destruction of man. And I don't know. I just thought it was pretty cool. But yeah, Tolkien's got like a lot of really deep references. Like, I mean, like I know I harp on this, but like fiction is a lot of it is actually reflective of like real information. It's just that it's like it's real ideas that are used to convey a fictional story. The story is not real, but that doesn't mean that the ideas used to construct them are not real. Like Tolkien was on to something, George Lucas was on to something with the with the whole concept of the Force. I think that's a real thing. It's just not like some sci-fi space wizard thing. He just used that concept to make the sci-fi space wizard fiction, whatever. But yeah, Wolf just stepped out for a second. He had to deal with something for work. So let's see what questions I'm gonna go through and see if I can find some good questions for him to answer, because when he's talking, like he'll miss some of them, and don't take offense to that. It's just it's hard for him to answer questions and read them at the same time. And I know that there were some good ones here that that y'all had while he was talking. Let me see. Thank you for that $5 super chat, Brianna L. She said, "Did this man say anything about autistic children / adults being susceptible to being harmed, since they truly can't understand the love of God?" I'm gonna pose that one to him when he comes back.
And I'm back.
So we had a question from Brianna L. She said, "Did this man say anything about autistic children or adults being susceptible to being harmed, since they truly can't understand the love of God?"
Does she think that autistic children don't understand the love of God?
Well, I mean, that's why I thought it was a good question, because it's like, do you agree with the premise?
I've known some autistic people, children and adults, who I think have a better understanding of the world than we do. It sounds weird.
It's called the spectrum for a reason. Yeah. So, like, I think it varies on like case to case, because it's not just like one condition. It's like, I mean, you can have two autistic people and they can have the condition in wildly different ways.
Because one of our relatives has Asperger's, and he's a very smart person.
Yeah.
He understands quite a bit. They just it depends on the spectrum, like I said. Yes, actually, Orion Files, good question. Orion Files with Ronan the Voice. One of my friends from back in the day was called Ronan. It means masterless samurai. Did the vampires say anything about the Mandela effect? Yes, we actually talked about that.
Oh, yeah, he asked that question earlier. I was looking for it just now.
But I can't remember what all we talked about. What was that?
What, did you see someone at the door?
No, yeah, I did. And did you hear that? No. Be careful. That's why I'm wearing this tonight, because I don't know what these lunatics are up to. Never be too careful. Nothing?
No.
I heard that. I heard something at the door, and when I looked, I thought I saw something for a second there. Maybe nothing. Here lately, we've been, well, actually, y'all have been seeing it more than me, like that whatever's moving around. This is another weird thing. There's a guy that I used to share the office with here. He wrote a book about ancient civilizations, and I can't remember the name of it. I can't remember the name of it. I can't get a hold of the guy. He moved to New York City. But he was on my show one time when he jumped on the stream, and he stayed in that office right there. That's where he worked, which is now my office, whatever. But he stayed next door to the studio, and so he said that he astral projected onto not a military base, but like what he called a shadow government base, and that something chased him back, and that periodically he would see stuff would come looking for him. And that may be some truth to that, because we've been here a while and we've had stuff. It's not always here. It's not always hanging around. I don't feel it that way. But every now and then I feel like something moves around in here. It comes in. I don't know. Maybe it's looking for him. But I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. Works pretty well. You heard it too, Tara? Okay. Have anybody else heard that? I don't know. That was weird. It sounded like the door. I thought that Tony was coming in or something. That was weird. Whatever. Yes. Did you guys talk about what happened at the drug dealer Carlos yet? I'm going to save that for Sunday. If you guys want to talk about that, remind me. We can talk about that on Sunday. And don't forget, Bigfoot Michigan Rob, somebody just mentioned him. His show comes on typically on Tuesday nights. I know this 100% now. It comes on right after our 1 hour podcast episode that is for the podcast, but it's on YouTube too, because our platform, the people we go through, they drop it on all the platforms. It's called Anchor. We're still using Libsyn too, right?
No.
Well, then you need to stop paying them, because we're paying them. Still paying them. So I thought we were using them and Anchor, whatever. That doesn't make any sense. I guess you only need one. I thought that maybe one of them gave us a wider range, and then we had to use the other one to get the other, whatever.
No, we just use Anchor.
Okay. Well, you might want to quit paying Libsyn. Yes, the Scarecrow story too. We'll remember that. We'll do it on Sunday, but because I have a couple other stories I have planned, encounters that I got to retell on Sunday. But I guess it was, And another thing, too, like we were talking earlier about Dogman, and of course Joel had said that he thinks he saw two of these beings. He thinks that those beings that we know of as Dogman that are not necessarily werewolves, two things. He thinks either they are werewolves that went out into the woods and they got stuck because the other completely took over, which does happen. If you have a weak-willed human that doesn't force the issue, they could just stay that way. And they'll just go feral and stay out in the woods. The other thing he said, too, he goes, either that or they're a type of being that comes from the inner earth, because he saw two of them in the temple of Shay. And at Shay, he said, I saw them. He goes, but in Garah, he goes, I saw, those are the two temples he went to. One answered to the other one. One was like the bigger temple that was all over, and that one is located, the one that he was talking about was somewhere near Memphis. Or I think it was it Memphis? Or Nashville. It was somewhere in Tennessee, the one he went to, and then the other one was somewhere in Mississippi, which was the smaller temple where he was at. And that was Shay. But he said that one in particular, he goes, it was a small temple, but it was very powerful. They were a very powerful order.
Did he get into what the names of those temples meant? Like what language those words came from?
Yeah, they're like ancient Mesopotamian, names or whatever. There's different meanings or whatever, but Katie says, I wonder if it'll work on your ashy skin. I don't know.
Oh, chapstick?
Chapstick, will it work on that?
You just got to get some of that CeraVe moisturizing cream.
Just don't start calling me Ashy Larry from Dave Chappelle.
No, I'm Ashy Larry. That's why I use CeraVe.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, it's that expensive dermatologist stuff.
Well, I don't want it. I got things I got to pay for. I don't need to be expensive right now. Anyways, like I said, Bigfoot Michigan Rob, go check his show out. It comes on after ours on Tuesday. Had a good talk with him today. Good guy. I like him a lot. Maynard, that's probably a good idea. I won't use Vaseline. I hate Vaseline. I hate oily, greasy stuff.
Yeah, that's
on
gross.
that. Stand it on me, dude. Thank you, Lucy, for that prayer. I appreciate that. Everybody, be sure and like and subscribe too if you haven't. I've been told that a bunch of people have told me that they're coming, and every time they have to come back to the channel, they got to resubscribe because I'm getting a bunch of people they're getting unsubscribed. Even with that, we're still rolling really fast. We're moving quickly. We're gaining subscribers by the minute. Deadpool Kid says, how do you think these entities like the vampires come in a variety of forms, or is it a consistent autonomy, something like an egregore? Let me reread that for me, please.
He says, hey, do you think these entities like the vampires come in a variety of forms, or is it a consistent autonomy?
Oh, they definitely come in different forms.
Maybe he meant consistent anatomy.
Yeah. They come in different forms. Jamie Brinson, thank you for that donation. We greatly appreciate it. We have done a lot of work. We put a lot of work into this. I mean, I spent 5 hours on the phone and at least 4 hours with Gerald and about 5.5 hours altogether with Joel, trying to figure out, like the questions I needed to ask. And every day I had new questions. And I'm glad that I'm glad that these dickheads were keeping me busy with their nonsense, because that actually worked in my favor, because I was able to think of the next questions. I was only able to talk to them about an hour and a half each day. And so it worked out. It was like, wow. I was actually able to, over the course of 4 days, I was thinking of new questions every day. And they have some really incredible stories of their adventures or journeys, whatever you want to call it. In particular, Gerald had a couple really, like Joel told me, he says, let Gerald tell you about what he calls the jungle world, which is like this jungle scape place. It's just like a huge Amazon type, and I asked him this question. I said, how do you know that that's not where he was at, that he was in some Amazon, like he was in the Amazon rainforest? Get this. I said, how do you know that that's where he was? He just went through a portal and that's where you end up. He goes, oh, I know that's not correct, because that wasn't Earth where he was at. And he said where he was at had dinosaurs. They weren't huge, these hulking, beasts that we had, but they were like kind of the size of megafauna, If you don't know what that is, megafauna, basically like the ancient, the Irish elk, or the woolly rhinoceros type size, back in the age of the huge mammals, where mammals were gigantic, and they're about half the size of the dinosaurs that lived before them. The Younger Dryas era, that's sort of, like that, So when you look at like prehistoric mammals, he goes, there were dinosaurs about that size. They were these giant reptilians, like these velociraptors and snakes that were huge. And they were not normal like snakes. It wasn't just like a normal world. He said like everything's eyes looked black. So it was like some sort of like, and he said that there were copycat worlds. He said whatever there is, and there was a copycat for it, like a what do you call it? Like a counterfeit, which is really weird. And I didn't even get to Maynard Pleistocene. I didn't get to get into a whole lot of that because we just didn't have enough time. And like I said, I was dealing with some stupid people who just, you have no idea how hard it is to sit there and do your job and make a schedule and I had a big scheduling problem. I had to figure out how to get a site covered. And then I'm fielding calls at night and I'm up all day. And then I'm talking to my colleagues and I'm losing my voice trying to talk to people. And then on top of it, I'm trying to get this guy's stories and I'm trying to get his encounters and everything put together, and other people's too, and keep them separate and at the same time having to work on the book, and then having to try to do my taxes while I'm being attacked by lunatics they're mad because I don't believe like them. So it's really hard, but we still did it. That's a good question, Brian, and I'll answer that. Are any of these practitioners that are reptilian born that way, or are they once human? No. These reptilians, if they were human at all, they had a lot of reptilian blood. So these magic practitioners, a lot of them, and thank you for the donation. We greatly appreciate that, especially right now. Deadpool Kid, yes, some sort of counterfeit Earth. But they're not really Earths. They're all Earths. The way it was described to Joel, it was like they were all Earths, and I asked this question. Well, I didn't ask it, he told it. But they were all Earths. But they weren't. Does that make any sense? Like, these were Earths all from different periods, like there was a younger Earth and an older Earth and everything else. But it all, this is going to sound crazy because you're not going to be able to grasp it, most people anyway. He said, dude, there was no time. And it doesn't exist. He said, it's all happening at the same time. So yes, you were kind of in an Earth, but then you also had these counterfeits because these demons can actually spin off their own worlds. I mean, it's really weird. And the only tether, the only line you have to keep from floating off into the abyss is God. That's it. Because there's one God in charge of the whole thing. And he's over all of it. But all these little worlds have their own little God that thinks that it's, a God, and the beings on that planet worship it like it's the God. And it tells them, well, we're the only world here. This is it. And there's a bunch of them. And they believe it. So, that's what he says. I don't know. I don't know. This is just what was told to me. Different dimensions, different timelines, different Earths. Earth has multiple personality disorder. Yeah, and of course we talked about the Mandela effect and what we thought it was, and there was a couple different ones we talked about in particular. What was one that I told you about that we talked about, that me and Joel talked about? Because I went in a deeper conversation with Joel than I did with Gerald. Yeah, Brianna, you're right. Time was created by us. We made time. Which is another thing, and I don't want to get into it because these religious zealots, they are seriously after my ass. So I don't want to, and I don't want them to be able to control the tempo of my show or anything else. But I just, their leader is a psycho. He is a psychopath. I'm not joking, and he is just, I'm not kidding. So, anything I say or do, they're not going to like it, and it's just going to keep going. So I'm hoping they'll just eventually get tired and go away and just quit rioting. But, and I don't want to get into anything religious right now while these people are on the warpath. I just don't, because I think they're dangerous. I really do. They've pronounced me as a heretic and an apostate, and they are calling me satanic. They're calling me the enemy of God. The ringleader's telling everybody that I'm taking everybody to hell, and it's his duty to stop me. And I'm like, he's nuts. Okay, he's absolutely nuts. Jair, I don't know how to say your name. Jair Fiallo. Are there spirits from the light working as much as the demons? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what keeps the balance. I guess, Brian, he says string theory is correct. I guess. I mean, according to this guy, let's put it this way. I don't know, for me personally, I don't even know 100% what I believe. This one guy, he's really mad about me saying the Anunnaki and all that stuff. I don't know if that's the whole truth. I just know that there is some proof that to me, it's proof. It shows that that's kind of what happened. A lot of people, especially fundamentalist Christians and fundamentalist Muslims, they have the same thing in common. They're fanatics, and they don't believe that, and they will come after you for saying that, especially when they get too familiar with you and think they can control your show. Bless you. I'm not saying these people have gotten crazy, but here's what I'm going to tell you. when I throw stuff out there, and it's not always 100% that that's exactly what I believe, but I'm giving you the option to look into it. And so, Brian, your question, is very important. He says string theory is correct, that there are multiple, I'll say this. If you look at what we know of as string theory, this is what he says. Now, I'm enough of a guy that knows that to think, hey, this dude knows more than me. Okay? He does. Everything that we talked about that I knew about, like he was spot on. So let's go in percentages. I'm a big percentage guy. Let's say that if we had to put a percentage on, like I said earlier, I think I gave you some percentages. I would say 80% we agreed on. And I would say he is 100% correct about that 80%, if that makes sense. The other 20%, or maybe 25, I don't know, is up for speculation. But I don't think that this guy, this country dude from Mississippi would know all this. I mean, like, he's like, how do you think I know all this? You think I just read a bunch of books? No. He's like, dude, no, I lived it, And so I think that, he's correct in a lot of what he says and what he's doing. I think he's right. I do. I think he's correct. But some of the things he said, I don't want to believe. It's because I think this is a problem, and I'm man enough to admit this to my audience. I personally don't want to believe that. But therein lies the problem. And please listen to what I'm going to tell you. Use common sense. Think about it. Just because I personally don't want to believe that doesn't make a hill of beans. It doesn't matter what I want to believe. It doesn't matter if I want to believe the earth is not round, or if it's an ice wall or whatever the hell that, it doesn't matter. What I want. What we're looking at is what is. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Penny Van, yes, it is hard to accept anything beyond our own paradigms. And in actuality, too, we got into it, me and him. Because I started disagreeing with him, and he says, okay, be ignorant. He just kind of was like being kind of smarmy, which I thought was not cool. And I said, no, this is not the way it is, and you can say what you want. You're free to do that. I said, but I'm also free to disagree. And he says, you're not thinking with your brain. You're thinking with your heart. And he's like, and that's okay. He's a very God-fearing Christian man, but he's read a lot. He's seen enough. And I do agree with this. There's one thing we agreed on, all three of us. And Anthony, too. All of us. We all agreed that we're looking for the one true God, the Father of Christ. That's who we are searching for. That's who we found. That's pretty much it.
We've had a few people asking, though, if these covens are linked to missing children.
Oh, what do you think?
I think definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't they be?
According to what Joel and Gerald both told me, they did not participate in doing anything to women or children. That was just that they didn't do it. But he said that once you do that, you take that, it's like you are taking the next step to being, full-fledged nightmare. And that is something that he said that these temples, and it wasn't so much at his, but one of the bigger ones was they were all involved in this kind of crap. And they were doing these things for certain families that actually run this country. And it's widespread, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to get, I want to never be able to talk to y'all. So let's put it that way. And let's, take it to Rumble. We're trying to get everything on Rumble so we can talk about this.
And I'm sure there was plenty that they didn't even know, because these organizations, they like to compartmentalize.
They do.
Like big time. I mean, they have to.
Yep. Brianna L., like he said, it was above his pay grade, this and that, you know. And then when he got too close to one of the witches, who he said was doing some really horrible shit, you know, excuse my language, but he said, dude, he's like, I went after this Bitch. He must really hated her. But he said, I went after her, and she was just older, more powerful than me, you know, and he basically, you know, said that she tried to kill him. And when she sent him to Mr. E, luckily for him, Mr. E was okay with him. So I asked him this. I said, if Mr. E was a good guy, and he said, He said, I never said he was a good guy. I said, in fact, he was a very evil guy. But he tolerated us because we had an exchange. And in fact, one of the things that him and his little posse of weirdos that live within the earth wanted was human blood. So he corrected me real quick. He said, if you or any of your people went there, they would kill you and eat you in a heartbeat. He said, they weren't going to kill and eat me. He goes, besides that, my blood was tainted. So, yeah. He also says that he has sort of like a disease now, and it's not a bloodborne illness from man, but it's weird. I have this stuff running through my blood, and it's these like weird little proteins, you know, that they can see it under a microscope, and it looks really bizarre. And at any given time, he's like, they will multiply. And at some point, he goes, they're probably going to kill me. So it's some sort of sickness that he got from being in this, you know. Joel, not talking about Gerald. But Gerald said, you know, that thank you for that donation, Brian. He said, do these groups use national state parks for the ceremony? Sometimes. Sometimes. I did ask that question, what's going on with people missing in the state parks? I did ask that question. I asked that one to Gerald. Gerald told me. Because Gerald spent time in those state parks too, roaming around in his form. Here's the thing. Thank you for that donation, Donnie. I appreciate it. There was another person that had said, what was I going to say? I just lost my train of thought. There was so much to unwrap.
National parks.
Yeah, but before that, I was talking about something.
Someone talking outside.
What are they saying?
I don't know.
Whoa, what the fuck is that? Excuse my language. Were they messing with one of the trucks?
I don't think so. It's coming from the side of the building.
It sounds like they're kicking or hitting something. Might get more of a show than you bargained for. Maybe they don't like us talking about that. I don't know. Don't go outside right now. Stay in here. Let them come to us. Watch what happens.
All right.
I mean, okay. Did you hear that?
Mm-mm.
Well, I don't know. I just heard them coming upstairs. Okay, can you take over?
Yeah.
Just, yeah. I'll be right back.
Sorry, you just got to go check outside. It's weird. We heard someone talking on the side of the building, and my truck. His truck's out there. Tony's truck's out there, and some people talking out there. And it's like it's 11:30 at night here, so I don't know.
Tony's truck is there too.
Yeah, it's parked on the side. Hang on, let me check the window. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine. It's probably just some homeless people passing through. I mean, this isn't a bad area. It's a decent area. It's just they just pass through here usually. Like they don't really live in this area. They just kind of like it's in between areas they do live, so they'll just kind of pass through it. Just Anthony, you ever watch a horror movie? You ought to know to stay away from the window. Yeah, I'll be all right. Is everything all right? Was it more than one person? Because they were talking to somebody.
Yeah, they ran over to the store, whoever it was.
Oh, okay.
That was weird.
Yeah.
Like they were right outside, and then they ran to the store like real quick when they saw me.
Wendy Eater says Anthony remind Wolfie was talking about Joel's blood and was going to say something about Gerald.
Oh, the blood, yes. I think I already answered that, though. I just kept hearing those noises, and I was like, it was distracting. I was like, dude, sorry about that. And I just had to deal with, I don't know who that was. There was, and this is weird, too. You know, that main light that goes up to the fire escape? It was like flickering. It was like, and then the other one was flickering, and then they were both flickering, and I was like, what the hell's going on?
But Tony's truck was fine?
It looked like it, but the guy, what I saw was somebody on the other side. You know where Tony's truck is parked and where my truck is parked and then where the patrol cars usually park?
Yeah.
It's like right there, and then I saw somebody, and they just kind of ran over to the store when they saw me. So maybe they were about to do something. I don't know. So tired of dealing with lunatics, dude. Deadpool Kid says institutions preach we're created in God's image, but refuse to believe that from time to time we create an image of God through our interpretations and dogmatic impulses. Very interesting. My point to these lunatics who are threatening me basically is just that is this. It's very simple. We create clones. We're not God. So why is it so hard to believe that something could create us? It doesn't mean that there isn't a God, and it doesn't throw out the fact that Jesus, because God doesn't look like us. And I keep saying that. And if you knew anything about the nature of reality, and it's one of the things that me and Joel talked about, and, what's his face? Gerald didn't see this because it didn't, but it was like, when you're in these other planes of existence, you have an alternate reality, like mind, like you're having an out of body experience. It's totally different. And these people, I don't know. They're interested in being ignorant. One of them is so stupid. Like he, like if you look at these people and look at how ignorant they are, I mean, they're willing to basically, say that they're trying to stop me from teaching people or whatever because I'm not teaching about God the way they want me to teach, but yet they're using lies and sabotage and deception of every kind to defeat me. And I'm like, how does that work?
I mean, if we as human beings play God, why can't spirits try the same thing, Yeah. I mean, like if it exists in the material world, it's going to exist in the spiritual world too. They mirror one another.
Sorry, did you hear that at that time?
I was talking.
There was a person out there, but I think it was a human, but I don't know what that was because I look and you don't see anything.
So we can see.
This is weird. We were talking about this stuff, and then stuff gets weird. I mean, it's like. Thomas Dove says, Wolf, how would I know the difference between me lucid dreaming and astral projecting? Oh, that's a good question. Because it's a hard one to when you astral project, though, once you get to a certain level, like you'll do it, and sometimes you do it involuntarily. I started doing when I was a kid. And I just woke up and I was like up above my bed. And I think I remember saying on the show, I think I was 11, but that's not correct because I did the timeline back and I think it was 1982. And the reason I believe that is because I was 7. I was 7 years old. And it was because I remember the house we were living in. And so I got confused and I thought I was in the other house. But it happened to me when I was 11 too. So, I mean, it happened to me periodically. But I remember both incidents, one when I was 7, one when I was 11. It's kind of weird, 7, 11. But both incidences were similar, where I was like touching the ceiling. I could feel it on my face. But I looked down and I was in my body. My body was laying there. So when I was out of the body, I was like a spirit that looks like us. But that's not your final form, as they would say in Dragon Ball. Your final form is this ball of light about that big. So why would God, just say, I'm going to make us out of this, like, I don't want to get into it again, but it's just, it doesn't make sense to me because, that's our actual true form. That's our spirit. That's what we look like. So why would he say, I'm going to make you in my image and make you into a man? Unless these beings did it and they look like us. It doesn't make sense. And then they say, well, Jesus came as God, whatever. No, Jesus is not God. Jesus was the Word made flesh. He was the Son of God. And it's very, very, very specific. But people want to take it and change it around and make it into something it's not. And then they get mad when you dispel that. And they want to come after you. And they get the tiki torches and whatever. And that's what they're doing now. And they've done damage. They've gone after my listeners and got a bunch of them to basically, fall away and say that they're not going to listen to me, whatever. Yes, Miguel, Akira Toriyama. Yeah. I believe that too, Brianna. He made our spirit, our soul in his image. Yes. And I think that it could have been done multiple different ways. And I don't know, I'll sit here and I'll say it, I don't know 100%. All I know is what I'm learning right now. And as I'm learning, I'm teaching you or giving you the information. You do what you want with it. I'm not going to tell you what you have to believe or whatever, but these people are trying to tell me what I should believe and what I should be telling you. And they want to control the show, and they have no right to this. And one of them, I don't even know where he came from. He just showed up and has been a big nuisance for a couple of years. Just kind of like a stalker, fuck off, leave me alone, dude. Go away. Excuse my language. I get aggravated when I think about this dude because of all the crap he's done. I mean, he's put in a lot of work on me, and he's been doing it for months, and I just should listen to my brother about him. Just got to be careful. Yeah, mask his mouth, be careful. All right, guys, I'm going to cut the stream. I'm going to let y'all go. It was good talking to y'all. Thanks for everything. I just appreciate you guys coming and being a part of this. Thank you for listening to me. I appreciate everybody. It was great. We had a good time. And you got to understand something, that no matter what happens, we're still here. I think that the bigger we grow, the farther we get, the more we're going to do, and it's going to be big, good things. Things are going to happen. And, I appreciate the people that are with us and doing what we do. People are jealous, and they're not going to stop us. It's not going to happen. We're going to be okay. I just got to go, and because there's something weird going on out there, I just got to make sure that everything's fine. One or two more questions, and then, if you got anything, throw it out there now. Yes, lunar eclipse, you're right. I'm bad.
I have a question just for my own curiosity, and I don't even know if you'll have the answer to it. But like, whenever you're like in a meditative state and you're trying to focus on something, like if you're trying to, like if you're in prayer, like deep prayer about something, in my opinion, that's like a form of meditation. It's just because you're meditating on something, on one thing. But like when you do that and you have your eyes closed and you're deep in that state, how do you know if the images and sounds that come to mind as a result, how do you know the difference between something that's coming to you, something that you're actually seeing on a spiritual level, or something that your head is just making up? Like, how do you know the difference between what's in your head and what you're actually perceiving, like on a spiritual plane? Because I mean, like I'm someone who would just assume that like, oh, this is just in my head, because I don't want to believe something that's not real. I feel like you have to be careful to not be deceived and just believe whatever you're seeing is real, But I don't know how to tell.
So you're doing meditation?
No, it's just like, okay, like if you're deep in prayer on something, like looking for answers, whether it's like a person that you're praying for, or like an issue in your life or whatever, and you feel like an answer is coming to you. Like, how do you know that that's real and not just something you made up in your own mind?
Got work stuff going on here. Never ends. I got a problem at one of my sites. I'm sorry. I had to answer that question from work. What was it again? I'm just the last part.
It's okay. I was basically just asking that like, I guess, how do you discern between what answers you're actually getting spiritually as a result of your prayer, or something that you're just kind of making up in your own subconscious mind?
Well, I think if you're deep, this is my belief. I believe if you're deep in prayer and you're connecting to the Holy Father through Christ, because He says that's the only way to His Father. The only way to Him is through Christ. That's it. That's why the New Testament is so important.
Yeah.
But if you are, you're connected, dude. You'll know. I mean, it's just It's like the power of the Holy Spirit. It flows through you. It comes through you. Mm-hmm. So there's no way that you're going to be like thrown off onto something. I've never been misled when I've made that connection to God. Like I can tell. It's just you.
So basically, like if you have a doubt there, then
yeah, if there's a doubt
real.
being thrown in, there could be doubt that's thrown in by sin. There's doubt that's thrown in by your own disbelief or whatever. I just don't have a lot of doubt. I mean, I'm once I get on, I know where I'm at, and I don't care. I mean, other people can do what they want and believe what they want.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, because there have been times when, like, I truly feel like the Spirit moves me to do or say, to make a certain decision or behave a certain way or to speak certain words or whatever, and like that, it's obvious. Like like when I feel it.
Josh Casto says depends on how you feel in your heart. Don't listen to your head. That's right. Go into deep into your heart. And I'm going to tell something else. I'm going to say something else. Some people aren't going to agree with
I
this.
spend too much time in my head. I know that's my flaw.
And meditation can be dangerous. I'm not joking. If you are doing meditation, transcendental meditation can get you in big trouble. And that is actually something me and Joel talked about too. We didn't talk a whole lot about it, but we briefly hit on it.
I really don't think it's smart to like try and empty your mind.
No, because something else will fill it.
Yeah. I think like you need like a mental anchor, and which is, we should meditate on Christ.
Valerie, guys, Jesus said, "My sheep know my voice." You'll know. Brianna L says, "You feel so happy and peace when the connection is with our Father." And I think there's this whole movement now, and don't call me New Agey because I'm not. I'm not New Agey. New Age people have this. I mean, I know true New Age practitioners, and I'm not one of them. But I've said this before, and I'll say it again. every religion on this planet have some truth to it. And most of them are 90% wrong. And then some of them, even that are different sects of Christianity, are really wrong. I mean, they're wrong. I don't care what you say. You can slice the pineapple 100 ways from Sunday. You're wrong. I don't care. I mean, I've talked to people and they've given me their thoughts, and I'm like, what the hell, you know? Everybody I talk to that has a story wants to give me their opinion, and I'm like, well, that's good. That's your opinion, and I don't try to proselytize and convert them. But if they ask me the questions, I'll tell them what I believe. And now people are, you know, it's in vogue now, I guess, to attack people for what they believe. And they want to attack me, they'll attack you, they'll attack anybody. Because that's just how people are. A lady messaged me last Wednesday, and she said, you know, we were talking, and she said, I'll message you after church. So she's a churchgoer, you know, it's okay. And she said, one of the things that she messaged me was about someone in her church was constantly getting up on, you know, and with the preacher and like was speaking to the congregation, but was really going after her and her husband and their son. And she's like, I know this lady's doing what she's doing. She's like, God, I had a dream and God showed me these people, and they're just attacking her basically. And I said, did you leave that church? She goes, no, I'm still with that church. And I said, good. I said, you don't let them run you off, because that's their end game, is for you to be gone. And I said, and she told me what the situation was, and it's a private matter. And then she says, I already repented, but this woman won't let it go. And it was really about her son and this girl, and she was making a big deal out of it. And, you know, I told her, I said, ironically, there's something very similar that and so I explained to her my situation, and I said, this is weird that you messaged me about this. And I don't think it was an accident or coincidence. And I told her, there are people in this world that do what they do. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
There are people in this world that do what they do, and they say what they say. But I told her, I said, it's up to you to like denounce that. And not only, she said, well, I was deep in prayer, deep in thought. And I said, she goes, and then the answers came to me. Mm-hmm. And the answers told me that I needed to leave that church. I said, okay, well, if that's what you were told, then what did you decide? She said that she decided to leave. And I said, did you talk to the preacher? Did you ask the preacher why he was allowing this to happen? And does the preacher know that's who you talk about? She's like, after being at that church for 17 years, she's like, yes. And I found out from, you know, my former sister-in-law, who still went to that church, that said that the preacher was saying things about us and about our son.
It's a car alarm.
Yeah, but is it?
Sounds like it's coming from across the street.
I'm just on edge. But she said that the preacher was in on it. So I said, okay, well, if the preacher is against you, then you need to get out of there. There's nothing you can do. Don't give them any more of your time, effort, energy, money. Stop helping them, because they're not helping you. I said, but if it's just a pride thing and these people are correct in what they're saying, she's like, they're not. I said, do you know that? She goes, I know that. I said, okay, then your mind is made up. But she said that, you know, it was like after helping them do all this fundraising and doing all this stuff that she did for them, he allowed this person to get up there and attack her and do it repeatedly and do it like in a way that was like, you know, like not coming straight out, but just being really mean and nasty, and the congregation's all knowing who she's talking about, and not one of them stepped up and said anything, you know, in her defense. Some of them that she had known for 17 years. Some of the people she knew in that town, you know, that goes back, she said that it goes back, you know, this was in Michigan, but she said that she had known them and she'd been a part of that community for over 20. And so she said that it was something that was very disheartening, you know, when the preacher himself was saying things behind her back. You know, I'm like, wow. I mean, you know, but I told her, I said, if you had just prayed, you know, and you know, you found the connections, and then that's it. You don't need to ask my opinion. But she asked something that was very similar to what you're saying. Like, how do I know, though, that this is the she's like, I feel it. And I said, then that's something you don't really think. You just do, because you feel it, then you know. But there are people, I'm going to tell you right now, they feel it in their heart. Mm-hmm. And they go and do crazy stuff.
Yeah.
These people that are doing the crap that they're doing all the time, they feel it in their heart. Doesn't make it right. But you'll know by their works if they're doing whatever they're doing and they're using evil methods to get what they want, then they're feeling it in their heart, but something else is putting those ideas and thoughts in their head. Mm-hmm. And they feel something, they're feeling it, but they're not able to distinguish between the Holy Spirit and what is evil. I would say 75% of the world is not able to do that. And I know because we're living in a period called the Kali Yuga. We're heading toward revelations. This is what's happening. I'm telling you, I'm not joking. I mean, I think that 75% of the world is evil.
Yeah.
And they feel all kinds of crap. That doesn't mean it's correct. They can feel all kinds of ways about you, about me, about everybody. Doesn't mean it's real. And then you hear them talking and the things that they're saying about people and going around and doing, and you're like, they're on some religious crusade, but yet they're like some of the most vile, evil people you've ever dealt with in your life. Yes, so what I told her,
go ahead, sorry.
Oh, sorry. What I told her, and I'll call her Jay. I didn't ask her permission to say her name, but what I told her, what I told Jay, I said, you have to go with what you feel is God really talking to you. I said, but it sounds like even before you went into prayer, you knew already what was going on. And if the preacher's sitting up there passively letting this person just tear you apart Sunday after Sunday, Wednesdays included, that's a problem. You need to find somewhere else to go.
Yeah. So
she went deep into prayer and she felt like she found the answers. But she did the right thing. She didn't just say, it's in my mind and I'm going to go, because God could have told her this. And I don't speak for God, but she could have been given the answer, no, you need to stay there. Because there could have been something that Christ wanted her to do there.
Yeah. Like
reform that church or call the preacher out. Because if it was me, ladies and gentlemen, and this is why I don't go to a church, because I've done this, I've called preachers out. Because they'll sit up there, and it's their congregation. They can do what they want, but it's my right to leave, too. And they'll lie. They will absolutely lie because they have a 401c, right? That's what they're tax exempt,
Yeah.
And they'll toe the line so that they can keep that tax exempt status. So they'll do what the establishment wants them to do, and they'll say what the establishment wants them to say. And these morons will go to the church to hear the word of God, but you're really hearing the tax exemption word of God. Because if they don't say what the establishment wants, they pull it. So I would suggest you finding a church where they don't depend on that. Because only then will you really find the true word. People will go out of their way to find a church that fits their beliefs and their views. And I was going to tell this woman when she first started talking to me about it, if that's what you're doing, if you're just going out and trying to find another church that will let you do whatever it is that you're doing wrong, then I'm going to tell you no. But if you have repented and you have been sorry for it and it was over a year ago and this person's still ranting and raving about it, then they're in the wrong. And the preacher's wrong for letting them do it. And I said there's probably more to it than that. But if the Holy Spirit's convicting you to leave, then leave. But I said if there's any doubt in your mind and you feel like the Holy Spirit, Christ, God, telling you stay, then you stay and you fight. And you change things. And I've seen, churches go into complete upheaval because one or two, people that like to run around and gossip. Gossiping is one of the worst things ever.
Yeah. And
then it kills relationships. It kills everything. And you never get to the real story because the liar is never going to come out and go, I'm the liar. I did this. No, they just keep on doubling down and lying and saying, well, and they just keep lying. So they don't ever show their hand. And they're never going to. That's not going to happen. So what you do with these people, and I'm going to tell you this, if you go to a church or any organization that's supposed to be doing good, right, you need to make sure that the leaders are good and hold them to a higher standard, okay? That doesn't mean that guy's perfect or gal, whatever. It doesn't mean that whatever they say is the absolute word because people get it wrong. And people make mistakes. But if it's an all the time thing, then it's up to you to just use common sense and say, man, I need to get out of here because that person is not a good church leader. Now, people get confused and they'll come to me with religiosity. And I'm like, look, I'm not a preacher. I have a show where we talk about the paranormal. If you want to get your spiritual fulfillment, I would suggest you going to somewhere to get it. But if you want me to help you, I can help you. But there will be vipers, and they will come out. And the closer you get to the truth, the more you will be attacked, I promise you. The higher up you go, the more haters you have. Consider it a badge of honor that they sit around and worry about you, because, they have to do something really drastic to worry about them. I get people saying stuff all the time, and I got to ignore it. But then there's other times you have to make a stand, and you'll be convicted and told by the Holy Spirit, this needs to happen. You need to deal with these people. And that's what you do. But if it is just one of those cases, and think about it and pray about it, where it's just you wanting your way, and you want the preacher to conform to what you want, well, then that's not cool. Because somebody told me the other day their dad had gone to over like 30 churches or 60 churches, some crazy number, to find, and I was like, yeah, I know this person. And I was like, yeah, I believe it because his dad's a person that's not cool. And I was like, so he keeps going to churches to find somebody that'll tell him that he's good. He's okay.
Tell him what he wants to hear.
Yeah. So there's that. I hope that helps.
Yeah, it does. It's just really complicated. Well, it's not that it's complicated. It's just that it seems like it's there has to be a balance between being in your head too much and being in your heart too much, because if you use too much of your head and not enough of your heart, you end up becoming deceived. But if you do the opposite, like you were saying, you can feel a certain way very strongly. That doesn't mean it's correct. So it's like the mind and the heart have to work together, with you. And when I say you, I mean your spirit, because that's what you are. It's like the three natures of a human being have to come together for true discernment.
Mm-hmm. So, folks, for Paranormal Roundtable, thank you for tuning in tonight to this impromptu live stream that we decided to do, connected to the show that we dropped earlier. I hope you enjoyed it, because it was a lot to take in, and it was a lot to take in for me, and it was a lot to talk about. So, Okay. We'll see you tomorrow. We're not going to be on. Check out Bettina Moss tomorrow night. She's going to be doing her live stream with L.A. Marzulli, 6 o'clock. Be there. And then after that, you got Barton Nunley with Inhumanoid Encounters. And then I'll be on Thursday with Blondes and Booze at 8 o'clock p.m. Be sure and show up. And if you haven't, go like and subscribe. We have a huge audience here, and they only have 2,000-something subs. So, All right, folks, I'll see you. Good night.